February, a faint fart in the wind.
Yeah, I mean, the average tax rate, today's the first day that you can actually make money. If you look at the apportionment throughout the year, you know, that's being conservative.
At least.
At least. Some people probably won't make money until July, based on their, you know, I guess in the aggregate, if you combine all the taxes upon, you know, expenses and just existing, it probably is closer to 60%.
I'm still waiting for the income tax to be repealed.
Oh wait, yeah, that's one of those lip service promises. Yeah.
You're listening to the Zetetic newscast on the Zetetic News Network with your hosts, Dave, and Xavier Diamant. Proceed by inquiry.
Welcome to episode 56 of the Zetetic Newscast. We are your hosts, myself, Dave, and
Xavier Diamant.
It is April 1st, April Fool's Day of 2026. We haven't had a show since January of this year, so we're super excited to catch up and talk about all the things that have happened and all the things to happen.
Oh, yeah.
Over the last few months. You know, I learned something interesting in preparation for the show. We were talking about and this is probably one of the first topics I'll want to touch on, the Artemis 2 launch being on April Fool's. I just couldn't believe, you know, that is that coincidence? Is that intentional? Like, what is the deal there? And my wife and I were talking about it this morning, and she was like, I don't believe in April Fools. I think it's a dumb holiday. It's not a holiday. I don't even know where it comes from. So I looked it up.
Yeah.
And I guess the most revered theory about its origins date back to the 1500s when France switched from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar, and the people who either refused to adopt the new calendar or just didn't get the news, oh, by the way, the year is actually starting months earlier and you're here celebrating the New Year's, you're a fool, you know? And so then they would get pranked. And I found that really interesting because the Julian calendar, the new year starts with spring equinox.
Right.
And I need to dig deeper. You might know more about that subject, but I know the control of time and the calendrical systems that have been, you know, adopted over the years. That's a key point of interest, especially when we talk about history and how we're organized with the 12-month year and the weird symbology with like the Greek gods and the zodiac and all of that. And I just, you know, it's just interesting that April Fool's Day came possibly from a government mandate from the Committee of Trent, I think it's called, or Tent or something like that, where they're like, all right, now we're going to do this calendar instead. And it reminds me of the daylight savings time,
right?
Because every time that happens, there's always sort of this national discussion about, man, why are we doing this again? Like, we're not an agrarian society anymore. We don't, and even if we were, those people operate with this movement of the sun. They don't care as much about what the digital clock reads, you know what I mean? Yeah, so the theme for today's show is the Tardageddon, And I thought that was apropos because I think if I look back over the last 3 months, it's just been, I feel like psyop after psyop after psyop. You look at these people observing the Artemis 2, the Artemis 2 launch, which is this gigantic spectacle. But let me go over kind of my highlights over the last few months and see where you want to jump off. I mean, we can talk about the Artemis 2 and my feelings on it. I think there's a big intersection with what's happening in the real travel that happens, domestic travel, and the TSA situation, DHS funding, the Real ID and all that. But here's the description. I don't normally read these, but I think today it'll frame up the discussion and the episode that we like to deliver. By the way, Zetetic News Network, we're the first next generation network powered by Theta. This is a call-in show, so if you're interested to chime in, you can earn your chance to win 444 T-Fuel. I know that doesn't mean what it used to mean, but neither does the dollar. Right. But the call-in number is 217-439-6234. We are trying to stream live right now on YouTube and Rumble. We had to kind of discontinue Rumble because of network bandwidth issues, but I had a major upgrade to fiber, and we're going to try it again. We think hopefully we can get some audience from that channel in addition to YouTube. But
definitely,
basically, here's on tonight's dossier. I already mentioned the April Fool's launch. NASA attempts to go back to the moon today. It happened just 3 hours ago, allegedly. And our question is it a giant leap for mankind, or is it a giant leap in green screen technology? We're going to talk about Artemis 2 and the premiere and the very suspicious timing of it all being on April Fool's Day. I think we can't have this episode without talking about the Epstein files. Right. You know, I don't know what your thoughts are. Can't wait to hear them. But like, why is the media suddenly obsessed with the leaks that we've really known about for years? We're going to talk about that and how it's kind of used as a high-level distraction and tool for elite consolidation of power
and demoralization psychologically.
Yes, a humiliation ritual, really like a Groundhog's Day every day. Yeah. And
trauma bonding, taumaturgical black magic.
Kind of a soft, this is going on and there's nothing you can do about it.
Precisely.
The Trump pivot, a very terrestrial subject, U.S. geopolitical machinations. You know, we've talked about this for the last. We've been
Before
around now. So I think we launched in 2019.
Yeah.
Right. So the Trump subject and the Trump era really started even before that. But we've talked about, you know, his failing, you know, over-promising, under-delivering, really being a red hat actor. At this point, I think, you know, we coined the term hologram Joe. Right. I think you could argue why not as well. Like, who is Trump really? What are we seeing on the TV? What power does he really have? Is it what the left is saying? Is he delivering to his base? Is he delivering on anything really? Like, we'll talk about that. And then for me personally, this is a subject that's just been like a thorn in my side forever, but
decades. The
TSA, and it's relevant because we're still, well, actually, we're just kind of getting over the quote unquote longest lasting partial government shutdown, which just so happened to defund the TSA, which normally I would celebrate. But what is it? What is really behind that? Is that just a FUBAR oversight from a budgeting perspective, or is there something more to that? And then
it's like a normalization's plea for sympathy for a unnecessary bureaucracy.
Oh my God, it's crazy. Yeah. And then something that if you ever use the airlines, also may have impacted you, but maybe you already have a passport and it's just kind of like, oh, no big deal. But the Real ID, which we've been talking about at least since January of 2020.
Yep.
That was a major bullet point in our top 20 singularities of 2020, which has turned out to be extremely prescient. If you're new to ZNN, highly recommend you go back and look at some of the old episodes and what we've said. But basically, if you don't travel, you might not know that effective February 1st, your completely valid driver's license that allows you to drive state to state, basically unmolested, is officially worthless for travel on an airplane unless you pay the Confirm ID ransom, which is now set to $45. And then overall, the main theme, Tardageddon, the Armageddon of the mind, really, how this fusion of hyperinflation, digital pre-bunking, AI, deepfake, new normal, and the constant, still mainstream media has enormous sway over the psyche of the people. The constant war drumming and the conflagration with Iran and Venezuela and Israel, like,
it's never ending.
It's never ending. It's obviously coming to some sort of crescendo, but what that is it Armageddon? Is it the end of the world? Is this the, are we going to have rapture? Like all that is on the table for today. So that's kind of
awesome.
What I was thinking for today's episode. Where
Right.
would you like to launch in first? Which one strikes you, Xavier?
Well, I mean, the front line headlines have to do with this Operation Epic Fubar, which has been commenced at the behest of, again, no net gain to the American public whatsoever, other than a bunch of humdrum about preventing a nuclear Iran from molesting the future geopolitical order that they've been claiming for, 30 years now?
BB has been talking about it since like at least
The
1992, which is, I mean,
that's 30 plus years
good
ago.
for him, longevity. Like, he's still in it. How old was he in 92? Like, he's still...
I guess if you repeat the big lie enough times for a long enough period of time, eventually, I guess, the compromat of whatever the current, presidential puppetry may or may not be, you can take advantage of that big lie. People will... Trump has imbibed that big lie.
I don't know how...
his entire life, too, and he's sympathetic to it. He's complicit in the narrative to commence this.
I have to commend him for two things. Longevity, first of all. He's been able to hang in there. Number two, persistence, because I'm in sales. Like, that's my career. I'm a career salesperson, and I just don't know how my mental health would be if I have been trying to sell a product since 1992 and never been able to close the deal. Like, I would have been fired years and years and years ago. Like, after the first or second, perhaps, attempt at forecasting this inevitability of nuclear weapon, blah, blah, blah. And,
well, I guess once, something's decided in government, everything's decided in government.
Right.
He was just forecasting from the early 90s. Oh, here's what'll eventually happen now.
right.
We've got enough prominence and control in the U.S.
What irritates me about the framing of the discussion in the Western media is the presupposition that this should not be allowed. Like, that if we can debate whether BB's right or not, that they'll have it in this period of time, but like the preconceived notion that they shouldn't be allowed. Like, if Iran is making the philosophical argument that they should be allowed to develop nuclear weapons, I agree with them.
Right.
And that may well get this episode banned from YouTube.
Right.
But why not? If you believe in the Second Amendment, the right to self-defense, what sense does it make to cut yourself off at the knees by, like, why shouldn't they want to develop a nuclear weapon? Oh, well, then you get into a discussion of, well, they're a terrorist state and they believe this. And it's like, well, who are we to judge that when you look at the proliferation of terrorism at the behest of the U.S. government and our proxy armies and our clandestine drone operations and things like that? How is that? I being the recipient of those actions, those kinetic, non-kinetic actions, like, I would feel like the U.S. is the terrorist. Well, so who are you to tell me? You're the only one who's ever dropped one on anybody, supposedly. And that's a whole other subject.
Oh,
like,
sure.
The nuclear hoax in and of itself.
The whole validity of the sort of sci-li classification of what the incendiary power actually is within those bombs, I think, is certainly
a very interesting subject.
Needs to be scrutinized more, because it's certainly within the paradigm of Samothracian orb worship, cosmogony, which, as we've detailed in previous episodes, is yet another one of these mass misconception egregores that's not really based on forensic evidence. It's based on telestration and imagineering and groupthink. And ultimately, they use these boogeymen based on the sci-li paradigm to bludgeon the population into submission, and they've been doing it for hundreds of years now. And I feel like this whole mutually assured destruction paradigm was one of the sort of linchpins of the current pseudoscientific charlatanry matrix to keep the population in a state of constant low-lying fear, and they have to renew that social contract now with the current generation. The previous generations, they had to duck and hide under their desks at the sound of the siren. And now, here's the next iteration. Here's the next generation version of the boogeyman psychosis programming. Well,
we've been, like you said, bludgeoned with these symbols and these egregores, to use a term you turned me on to many, many years ago, around nuclear fallout, for example.
All the video games, all the movies,
all this nuclear waste, the hazmat suits, that whole thing. And I was blown away. I'm sure we've talked about it on prior episodes, but it's very, I bring it up anytime this discussion comes up, because it was never taught to me when we were learning World War II history in the public schools. But that, two things. One is, there has been no statistical increase in genetic malformations, even considering those who were gestating a baby at the time of the explosion and after, compared to the control group of the unaffected or out of radius population of Japan. That's number one.
Hiroshima and Nagasaki,
Number two, there's a very well documented case. This guy died literally 16 years ago in 2010. Lived a very, what we would, if you died in America just having a normal life, you would have said this guy lived a long, full life. In 2010, he died of like late 70s, I think, but he was blown up in both Hiroshima and Nagasaki. He got blown up in one, and then he took a train to the other and got blown up the next day. And he survived.
Was he like a paraplegic?
He was injured. I mean, I think he had some burns.
Oh, so
the radiation, like, I've heard some people talk about this radiation, blah, blah, blah. Well, what does your microwave do? It radiates your food. It raises the temperature. It's more like a firebomb than anything else. It generates a lot of heat. Explosion, but similar to a traditional explosion, like just a whole lot of TNT. I don't know. He didn't suffer any I mean, he died of natural causes. Like he didn't. It's not like he grew some massive tumor. He didn't lose his legs or anything like that. He lived a pretty healthy life for 60, 50 plus years after he got blown up.
Right. So this like radiative decay and atomic half-life, these fixtures within the narrative of,
but like even if it's
danger,
real, even if that whole thing is real,
then we have it wrong about the danger, right?
But the moral high ground, we don't have the moral high ground.
No,
we dropped it. Let's just say it's true. Forget about all that woo-woo stuff.
Right.
Questioning the legitimacy of nuclear weaponry.
Yeah.
No doubt we have big.
Sure, these are powerful incendiaries.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We have probably advanced weaponry that if it's being used, nobody's claiming, like the Maui fire, or where was it, where all those anomalies with like the directed energy weapons not heating up certain pigmented things. Like there's advanced weaponry, there's rail guns, and probably things that
trillion-watt lasers.
They might be used in contemporary proxy conflagrations, but they're not being proclaimed. They're not being promoted as this like, think about a nuclear bomb, an atomic bomb, like that carries a very different weight when you're talking about like geopolitical, ethical, military, like codes of conduct. Hence, back to the original epic FUBAR, Iran can't have it. That's the whole premise. We're not going to do regime change, but we just decapitated the leadership. Like,
so you kick the hornet's nest.
It's such a mess. Like, there is literally no defense that the Trump base has of this at all.
There's zero legitimacy. I mean, they weren't in the middle of trying to do a talk and a peace deal, and then like literally the day after the talks were commenced, it's already a hot war. And you're just calling it's just in comes the militaristic euphemisms, right? Oh, this is just a specialized military operation here.
It feels very.
We don't have to declare war.
2 weeks to flatten the curve.
Absolutely.
2 weeks to flatten the curve. Like we remember we bombed. What did we bomb months ago? I think between our last show and this one, there was that bombing of one of their facilities that was supposedly developing nuclear. We took it out. We took it out, and they're done. That was it. Clearly, it wasn't.
Oh yeah, last year didn't they say? Oh yeah, we totally eliminated that. Wasn't that Tulsi Gabbard?
Yeah.
Saying, oh yeah, we don't y'all worry your little head about an extended conflict. Just forget about it.
No ground troops.
We're doing a good job, guys. Okay, so fast forward. What is this now? 9 months later, and is it just a contest of megalomaniacal egos now? Because
seems like it.
Last I checked, that's going to be brinkmanship, just like we predicted in before he was reelected. This is rampant brinkmanship, and who's going to? I mean, they're dragging the entire world economy along with this, and Iran. They've got nothing to lose, really, from just going full bore and not relenting.
Well,
why would they trust the opposing attempt at ceasefires or negotiations or anything? Why would they trust them when they've already commenced military operations?
Well, it's like almost unfathomable to the average Joe in America who buys into the narratives that are spun on the mainstream. But
oh yeah, that this is just like a little primitive desert nation like Iraq or Syria, or it's like no. This is one of the most mountainous, like impenetrable geographies in the world,
and a population of 100 million people.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot of like armchair. There's this guy on Instagram who does these great videos where he's like, he'll play a clip of somebody doing some sort of very athletic thing but messing up, and then it cuts to him sitting on his couch with his belly out, and he's eating a cookie, and he's like, what a fucking loser.
Right.
And it's kind of like those types are the ones who are like, like, let's fuck them up. Let's get over there, do whatever we need to do. Yeah, get the oil.
Get out of here, I'm baiting.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Because what's the? We already know what the momentum and the incentive behind this territorial encroachment is all about. Who does it really directly benefit? Whose long-term agenda and alleged prosperity is supposed to be benefiting here? Last I checked, North America is like 15,000 miles from this place.
Right.
But Israel's only like what, 450, maybe 500 miles from this place, 600 maybe.
But like the football fans in America, they're never gonna see Iran's point of view on this.
Oh no!
But like, if you if you are an impartial observer of events and you actually do your research, we are very much the aggressor in all cases. Like, didn't we install the Shah that...
Remember in 1953, Mohammad Mossadegh?
Right.
Who was democratically elected there.
Right.
And he wanted to nationalize the oil fields. Yeah, can't have British Petroleum being kicked out of that oil-rich
and then
zone
it just
there.
so happens, like... nuclear development could be easily mistaken for uranium enrichment for peaceful nuclear energy generation purposes. There's that whole thing.
Yep.
And it really reminds me of Gaddafi. Like, I think Americans largely need to start thinking, and I'm pro-America. Like, I do want our country.
We have much better potential than what is being exercised right now. There's no doubt about that.
And I do think we are, quote unquote, the best country in the world at a foundational level, but we are not living up to our potential, and we have allowed a very predatory satanic,
corruptive factors,
evil vectors to really run not just our lives but the largely world events
rampant.
But we should just put ourselves in their shoes for a moment and consider who's the good guy and who's the bad guy. And again, if we were them, we would want to develop nuclear weapons to defend ourselves and have that ace in our back pocket, to at least assuage our enemies from even trying things. It's kind of like the whole, an armed society is a peaceful society. We had some chats on our chat program about the TSA situation.
Well, because it's about mutual respect of each other's lethality.
Right.
That we're trying to claim that, Iran, this is just a parking lot waiting to happen. Let's get rid of their sovereignty too. We did it with Palestine after all, and they weren't able to prevent us from totally running roughshod over those people. So let's just continue the operation and keep bulldozing into Eurasia.
Right.
Okay.
And it reminds me of Gaddafi, who gained a perspective that he didn't want to participate in the Western central banking system. That's turns out a very dangerous position to have. But putting myself in his shoes for a second, I can understand why he would feel that way. I myself would like to break away from the Western banking system.
Right. Well, because it's based on infinite debt,
fake money, rigged markets, and corporatocracy, essentially.
And a vicious double standard where the rich get to privatize all the gains, and the poor have to absorb all the losses.
Right. So on
Amazing.
that note, I want to touch on, this is another major topic I had outlined for the show. I think there's a key intersection with the very exciting Artemis 2 launch this evening. It ties into what Xavier's talking about with the debt system and the money system, but we have yet another Groundhog's Day.
Here we are.
You wake up, it seems like every week there's a new government shutdown, which, if it were real and it were permanent and it was deep, I'd actually be all for it. Like, please, let's defund our enemies. But I think what we're seeing is a selective defunding for political purposes. And I just think the juxtaposition of the Artemis space launch and this situation with the TSA is very noteworthy. And it actually ties in with the Iran thing as well.
Yeah.
So, just my perspective, then I want to get your feedback. But, like, it is offensive to me that we spend, and I need to ask AI for an answer on this, but how much did we spend to do this fireworks show today? Wow. You know, the Artemis launch. How much did we spend on that? People worship it. They wear NASA t-shirts. They fantasize about space and our accomplishments and this exploration spirit and all of that. How much do we pay for that? And how much do the citizens get for it? Meanwhile, what does it cost you to travel within your own country on the earth you live on? Its jet prices have doubled because of this conflagration. Meanwhile, the subject we've talked about for years, Real ID, basically further monetizing your identity and restricting it, basically taking away your rights and then selling them back to you as privileges. They kick the can for an insanely long period of time. Real ID has, I think it dates back to like a 2009 law, maybe even earlier. The law was passed, but it was not implemented until truly this year.
Yeah, I think it was really kicked into motion during the National Defense Authorization Act under Obama,
2012.
Or I think one of his first things that he did when he was elected in 2008. I think it was right. 2009 sounds right. That was like he started doing that like right off the bat, basically, and it was just a continuation of the Bush. You know, the whole thing is it's a uniparty.
It was 2005 actually.
Okay, yeah, even earlier. So it was originally under Bush, and then Obama continued it.
Enacted the 9/11 Commission's recommendation.
Here we are. You know, the people who, as you know, helped create the event known as 9/11 have not been held accountable.
Right.
And they actually
This is like a fucking monkey on my back.
Yes,
this
that has grown into Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
Okay. This thing is pummeling the public. And here we are.
We still live with it. If you want to go get $10,000 or more out of your bank account, you have to fill out forms at the bank because of 9/11. 9/11 changed everything.
Yeah.
And
it was the putsch. It was the beginning of the new 30 years war to Bolshevize America, essentially.
Here's what they
here
do,
we
though.
are.
They starts with the law, but it's not like you pass the law and then shit happens automatically. They put in all these provisions to make it incremental.
It's incrementalism.
It's incrementalism. Absolutely. So it was passed in 2005, but here we are more than 20 years later.
25 years.
Finally, rubber is hitting the road. You've had how many generations of people who are now adult enough to go fly on an airplane, and they weren't even born before 9/11. So they are truly the frog in the boiling water, and they don't even know that they were born in the water. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's cross-generational
So
acclimation.
like even
to
among our peers who
tyranny.
probably remember the day 9/11 happened and how you were pulled out of class, and then you saw to different extents how things changed, even among our peers, there's still mass compliance and psychological subterfusion relating back to that one key event, and everything that happened after that was, especially to our generation, largely a blur because we weren't even voting adults yet. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It was the boomers who were really in a position to oppose or, you know, like take any kind of action. And as far as I can tell, there was very little resistance to anything that popped up. All of the sudden you had TSA, all of the sudden, and they had their own incrementalism. You know, oh, now body scanners, oh, now underwear bomber, you have to take your shoes off, oh, you know, we gotta have you do X, Y, and Z pat down, and if you opt out, and it's just been this incremental. But now we're at a point of a key, like an interesting, like I see like this Venn diagram almost. So you have the TSA, they haven't been paid, and I think they actually just got paid. Like that, something happened, Trump wrote an executive order, whatever. Now they're getting paid. But for like the last month and a half, they haven't been paid, and people have been leaving. People have been continuing to work without pay, hoping that something will break loose and they'll get paid. Meanwhile, you have this Iran conflagration where there's all this psychological programming that sleeper cell, retribution, lone wolf, you know, terrorist, this and that. At the same time, they've implemented this real ID thing to the point where if you don't have it and you don't have a passport, you have to pay $45 to fly in your own country, even if you have a completely valid driver's license.
And meanwhile, since 2005, you've had how many just unaccounted for randos from other countries just flood in the country?
What are you supposed to do? Put them on a flight back? Oh, we don't have a seat. Oh, they're just get them a Greyhound bus somewhere.
Right. So, but the real ID, it's like they do the opposite, and it's calling it everything but what it actually is. The real ID is a way to crack down on the native and heritage American population while supplying all kinds of loopholes and throughways for non-American citizens. So it's like maybe all Americans should just renounce their citizenship.
Well, they reduced the fee for that.
Oh, did they really,
dude? Yes, they reduced the fee.
So it's like, because I think that the ultimate replacement population that they're ultimately aiming for is a robotic synthetic one. But in the meantime, it'd be nice to just have a huge influx of populations and demographics that maybe wouldn't have so much of a beef, or maybe wouldn't put up too much of a fight, or maybe wouldn't be so litigious and uppity about the foundations of the nation they're occupying.
Right.
So, yeah, let's do a real ID to figure out who's a legacy American, so we can crack down on them, while giving all kinds of like double standards and look the other way treatment to people we'd rather live here. Yeah. So that's.
But isn't it interesting? What other government fee has been reduced by 80%? And I have this article up here. State Department slashes fee to renounce U.S. citizenship by 80%.
Holy
to $450.
Are you for real?
This is
wow, I did not see this.
March 18th.
Yeah, this is recent. Okay, so are you telling me that I can renounce my citizenship, go to another country, and be basically a non-resident alien for a while, and then come back into the country and try to confer additional benefits from being an expat?
I think that would largely depend on the
'Cause-
system integrity
Wow.
in their data systems, which
Because last I checked, you can like open a daycare and get like millions of
yeah,
dollars.
there's
you know?
that. I think that was actually the name of our last episode was I Run Daycare.
I run daycare now.
that
exactly.
was top of mind back in January.
Back in
was
January,
the
that
Nick
was
Shirley
the-
stuff.
But I mean, that's continued. But you've seen that kind of pushed into the corner with these bigger events that have taken place. You know, you got the Epstein file disclosures after that, and then you have this Operation FUBAR. It seems to me like those are really big headline type diversions from what was ultimately kind of like an independent journalistic investigation that really had serious ongoing viral potential, and it still does. I think people are discovering the two-tier system that I've kind of hinted at here, is that the establishment wants to basically milk dry the legacy population, and in doing so confer benefit to a less uppity population that will go along with all of the, you know, draconian surveillance state erosion of whatever's left of civil liberty protections in the country once the surveillance state, surveillance capital panopticon continues to be rolled out. Because there's a limited window where the legacy population can actually hold accountable these usurpers before the usurpers have enough control to completely eliminate the opposition.
Right.
So we're in this window where it's like,
I think people.
This is the quickening. I mean, it's like
I
we've got a limited window
I
here
agree.
to
I will
hold
say-
these usurpers accountable.
I will say the most positive thing I've observed over the last 3 months is the validation that we should be enjoying from the mass realization of the Epstein fuckery.
Right.
The AI epoch and its calling into question the observations that people have with their animal eyes, if you know what I'm saying. There's more skepticism than ever about what is observed versus what is real. And that is symptomatic of the increasing disassociation between like what is presented and what is actually happening. For example, it has been widely reported in various outlets that Bibi Netanyahu might be dead.
Right. There was like a...
And then there was that weird video release with Mike Huckabee. And his face morphs.
Well, then there was the other one with the disappearing ring.
Yeah,
I noticed that. I mean, there's all kinds of...
But like the comments are
chicanery,
unanimously, oh shit, like we're not being told the truth. We're not being, what we're seeing is not to be believed. Like I'm seeing that reach a crescendo. I'm very happy to see that.
Yeah, I mean, and it is a legitimate form of skepticism.
There's a hazard though.
There is a hazard, and the establishment is leveraging that hazard in order to try to basically short circuit real investigation into how to hold them accountable. So they're using it as a smokescreen, knowing that they're vulnerable in this window. They are vulnerable. So you know, I'm not, you know, abyss, or like I'm not like an abyss pillar. I'm more of a charcoal pillar. Like we have to accelerate our understanding of how the system has been uniformly essentially set up to create a lowercase I type Elysium economy and society, where you have a renegade breakaway elite that, like in the movie There'll Be Blood, just sucks up all the resources of the entire lower order monolith of peoples and creates such levels of immiseration and suffering that people are just trying to survive. And that's the ultimate basis by which you can maintain power and long-term control, because no one can mount a resistance if they're constantly in a mode of either being an obsequious rule follower in order to survive within the system, or just straight up not having the resources to put up a fight outside the system due to the need of survival on that front. And so they're using survivalism as their primary vehicle for ascendancy. And it's par for the course within the philosophical project of transhumanism. You know, it's a merger of Paulo Sarpi and Thomas Malthus, Darwin, Athanasius Kircher. You know, it's they're using a sort of cataloging reductionistic logic to break down the worthwhileness of human life over time on a structural psychological level, so that we're more inured to resist against conditions that are confirming that agenda long term. And again, that's 100+ year outlooks. You know, if the vast majority of the population is only thinking in terms of 100 hours, how are you going to compete against a social engineering body that, you know, has dark Machiavellian deception techniques to keep them in power indefinitely, and has essentially infinite resources at their disposal? How do you actually contest that?
Well, it's very difficult when you gain the perspective that you and I have to interface with folks who are not yet in tune with this level of skepticism. As an example, the Artemis 2 launch tonight.
Right.
I had both my mother and my mother-in-law text me excited. They grew up watching the moon launch and the moon landing, and they are even in they're not totally, they've come around. They've made progress in terms of questioning what they witnessed back then. But that has taken 15 years of consistent, persistent, insistence on the Zetetic method of proceeding by inquiry. Well, if that was true, then why this or why that? Like, I have asked these questions over the years and chipped away in terms of the perception of that, which at one time was, I know it was real because I was 10 years old and I was sitting in front of a TV and I saw it, and you're not going to tell me anything otherwise. Well, when I was 10 years old, I was watching Dragon Ball Z, and just because I saw it on TV doesn't mean that it's real, you know, like, so, but anyways, as an example, my mom texted me excited about the Artemis launch, and I said, honestly, she's like, do you remember when we went to Florida and we were at Cocoa Beach and we could see the Space Center? And I'm like, honestly, I don't even remember that. And that's probably because, like, I don't get all the warm and fuzzies from space and, like, the space program. Like, I don't get the warm and fuzzies from it, you know, and we don't need to get into it, but, like, I think it's, like, kind of a big fraud.
Right.
And she's like, well, I know there's some theories about the moon landing, and I hear you on that, but, like, I've seen so many launches, and I just don't believe we've not been to space. And maybe it's because I love science, maybe I'm foolish, but I don't think everything is a fraud, basically. And I was like, well, look, seeing a launch is no more proof of going to the moon than seeing me leave the driveway is proof that I drove to China.
Right.
Okay?
Correct.
And I'm not saying everything is a fraud.
No.
But I think when it comes to NASA, much of it is. And it's not lost on me, speaking of foolish, that this launch is on April Fool's Day.
Right.
I think they're trying to make a fool of us by renewing this social contract, much like the TSA embargo or whatever, the shutdown is a renewal of the social contract because some kind of event will be manufactured, like a rocket launch, where there's something happens at an airport, and now people fall in love with the TSA again. They need to give you a reason to fall in love with NASA again, to fall again in love with the TSA again. It's a renewal of the social contract. They have to, from time to time, tap us on the shoulder and remind us of what the narrative is, so that they can get and buy your complicity with it, your buy-in, essentially. And so that's how I see those things kind of intersecting, and it's making me mad.
Yeah, and it's the industry of tacit assent through presentation and persuasion. And again, just if you repeat a lie loud enough and long enough, eventually people can no longer discern whether it was a lie.
I have to ask you this, Xavier, because more and more I'm feeling incensed to say to various people in my life who are coming around to my point of view, I fucking told you so. Where's my apology?
Nowhere.
I don't.
Nowhere.
I try not to get that way, but more and more I feel that way. And I just want to highlight and ask you the question, how does it feel when the left is all up in arms because Trump is implicated in this Epstein thing? How does it feel to have written an article
like 5.5 years ago,
2019, where you said Epstein was absolutely ensconced with and protected by high-level Zio billionaire oligarchs and multiple intelligence agencies for decades, as he operated a blackmail operation against broad swaths of the upper crust, Western political, academic, scientific, and economic establishment elites. What makes this Finder's revelation, maybe you want to give some context on the Finder's revelation, so telling is that it shows, without a shadow of a doubt, deliberate complicity amongst the highest intelligence bureau branches of the United States, the very same organizational complicity that was utterly indispensable to an operation the size of Epstein's. How does that feel? I want to hear like a personal anecdote of folks somewhere in your orbit that, pun intended, orbit, that's some bullshit, but you know, someone in your orbit who's like, you must know someone, because I know a few who are like, now 6 years ago they didn't give a shit about Epstein, they didn't give a shit about Bill Clinton on the plane, but now that the media has rubber stamped Trump's involvement, and this is a reason to demonize, not that it's not, sure absolutely, but like, where were you? Where's my apology? Where's my kudos? Where's my credit?
Nothing.
Where's my credibility?
Well, I mean, the thing is, what's the saying of a patriot is scarcely believed in times of need, but when his cause is proven correct, everyone rallies to his defense.
Kind of like you got storable food and nobody wants to save food, but then when shit hits the fan, they want to come have your sandwich.
Yeah, that'll be $150.
Yeah, or a box of ammo, or coffee, or something.
Right. I mean, it's unfortunate though, because I think ultimately it's the collectivistic mind control susceptibility of humans in crowds. And again, this is the only real science that the establishment has truly perfected, is behavioral sciences. From Gustav Le Bon through Bernays and B.F. Skinner and Pavlov and these guys, that shit's some hard forensic stuff of operant conditioning and behavioral modification, manufacturing consent, mental manipulation models. They've got that stuff down pat. So if they can use that as the Machiavellian technique to convince people of all these other charlatanry forms of knowledge that aren't real, then that's a very potent ability to steer the imagination of populations for generations after generation after generation. And that's the level of knowledge that that's where people just check out. And they're like, oh, that's too doomer, and it's too much of a bummer, and it's too black pill. And it's like, yeah, well, that's the very thing that continues at the upper levels.
Yeah.
And just by ignoring it is not going to do anything to reverse it or negate it at all. So it's just the quagmire of like, at what point is there a critical threshold of people to swallow that charcoal pill and realize like, okay, yeah, we do need to vomit up all of the false knowledge systems that we've imbibed for so long. We need to start back at a more of a kind of a great reset, not just economically speaking, but in terms of what constitutes knowledge. And again, that's a bridge too far for most people. People want to think that humanity as a specimen has just figured enough shit out that we can have people think for other people. You know? And I think that presupposition is where a lot of evil and corruption actually grows, is in that assumption that, oh yeah, there's just people out there who can decide for my own sake better than I could. And I'm willing to relent my independent thinking and my independent activity and my doubts and my concerns to just a greater authority, just to be a part of something bigger. You know, I think that's where a lot of the power games really take off, is by milking that blind side and by milking that vulnerability within
it's
human
clearly
psychology.
it's clearly like it's like if you inherited a crystal ball and you had a dark heart,
right?
You will use that crystal ball
to figure out what people are thinking and doing.
Figure out what people are thinking and doing, and then prey on them.
Exactly.
Basically. And that's the position. It's
and to ignore that level of adversarial thinking is to your own detriment, in my opinion.
Right.
Especially on a political, geopolitical, big picture, transhistorical basis, it is to your own peril.
I think one of the things that really hampers people from becoming more cynical as far as human psychology goes is their raising to be good and to be nice and to be just. And I personally, I struggle with it.
It's
because
tough.
I'm in, like I mentioned earlier, I'm in sales, and I take a very, I don't know if I would say it's unorthodox, because I know there are other people in my position who believe strongly it's the best way to do business, but that is one of integrity and honesty, and not one of manipulation and deceit.
Reverse psychology, yeah.
But there are a lot of practitioners in my field who subscribe to that and leverage that and are very good at what they do, and they've made their moral bed, and they will lie in it. But that they also one thing to kind of respect about them is that they are cynical about human psychology, and they know where motivations truly lie and are able to capitalize on that, sometimes in unethical ways. But in a lot of cases, they're actually right, in the sense that they almost assume the worst in people. And it's just very a cutthroat way of looking at things. I personally want to see the best in people. I want to think that they're trustworthy and this and that. But the sad reality is that many people are not.
Well, and then the whole trapping of the incentives within the current economic paradigm, because it's an infinite debt, parasitic, centralized, by decree, crematistic,
basically
planned economy. It's an
engineers
engineered sandbox, basically.
Yeah, right.
It's a pyre. It's a house of cards. Because that's the case. You know,
it incentivizes unsavory types of behaviors.
100%. 100%.
I mean, loan sharks would not exist if we didn't have the current paradigm. Insurance, the I mean, a lot of the interest rate, loan shark. I mentioned loan shark already, but like
even mortgages probably wouldn't exist in their current form today either.
Right.
I mean, so much wouldn't exist because we've been acclimated to such levels of skullduggery and chicanery and, traumatic bedlam, false leadership for so long that most people cannot discern the possibility of an alternative because of the inurement that's occurred. And I think that that's the biggest ace up the sleeve, is just the momentum behind the trend. And the trend's been in place for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to reverse an 80, 100, 200, 300 different levels of these trends over a historical timeline. And I think that the trends were put in place on a sort of occult ritualistic level to sort of prove and create a self-fulfilling prophecy agenda that human nature is a golem, is a Frankenstein, is a mere limited product or resource that can be controlled like any other inert piece of matter. And unfortunately, they've been able to hack that premise into how most people consider the world today. And it's happened, again, incrementally, but also in selective, accelerated bursts, in very specific behavioristic...
There's consolidation phases. It's like the markets. There's consolidation phases, and then what's the term for
breakouts?
The breakouts. Yes, right.
And that can happen in both directions. And the more, for example, the more we reduce human activities to these sort of material techniques, the higher up that market goes, the lower moral consideration and legacy type consciousness goes down. Because if the more people are radically equivocated or radically put into an egalitarian mesh, the less likely they are to consider higher order possibilities beyond current conditions. And I think that that's really the long-term goal, is to just sort of create a sort of, and you can see in architecture, for example, the enshittification of art, music, structures, all this stuff is designed to create this feedback loop, this associative assumption that, yeah, we are just kind of like dirtbag flesh suit accidents, like a virus, on this random Goldilocks orb in a void. Right. It's all part of the piece. So you can zoom it out as big as you want, and you can reduce it down as little as you want, but it's the same operant conditioning program of deep misanthropy. And that is the true religion of the upper echelon, is deep misanthropy. It is the, deep Solomonic
That's where abortion comes from.
Yeah, absolutely. The whole notion and the suggestion that is no problem. We'll figure out this problem of not wanting to bring a human into the world, because after all, humanity is scum.
Right.
I mean, that's really ultimately the part of the sort of deep misanthropy religion that's been enshrined into, I would say, nearly all levels of society and knowledge. And it's just people's inability to inventory the extent to which it's already occurred that most people are willing to check out or be triggered to the contrary.
I think this clip of Epstein really underscores your point about, at the highest level, the deep misanthropy. I'm going to play this.
And to summarize, no, sorry.
Let's go back to human life. When do you think human life starts?
It's not these. So you see, this is the question. You're asking me to measure something again. It's the disease.
It can't be measured. You just hate making commitments.
That's why I'm not married.
I'm peeling this onion back a layer at a time. All your bullshit and happy target can't be measured like that. Is that to say measure it's a commitment. You don't even like a commitment when you answer a question.
I don't.
As they say in golf, commit to the shot.
I don't know what it means to be measured.
You do know what it means to be measured. You're one of the leading currency traders, hedge fund guys, or stock market financial wizards. You're in the high priesthood of high finance. You certainly know how to measure. That's why you're a billionaire. Any other answer besides that is total and complete bullshit, and you know it.
I know very few things.
You know things can be measured.
That's an interesting clip. I mean, I think it's the idea that human life, in terms of how it should be valued as to when it begins and when it ends, I think what he's really trying to say there is that it's not worth measuring.
Right.
There's no inherent value in trying to ascertain a beginning and an end.
He just didn't want to say it like that.
He just didn't want to say it like that. But you could see him trying to gather his words there for a little bit. But the deep misanthropy there is, well, whether human life begins or ends, it's not worth measuring.
Right.
It's insignificant.
Right.
That's really the sort of deeper gestalt behind what he was saying there.
And you see how it trickles down. Yeah. This clip.
How do you know it's a baby? Why do you say it's a baby? I've had babies. I think I'm in better shape to talk about having babies. Because most, and then they change it, because a lot of times when you're first pregnant, you lose your baby. That's just nature.
When you say they lose their baby, what do you mean by that?
It just aborts. Huh? Because, I know women that they're devastated. They're devastated.
Why are they devastated?
Because they wanted a child. How do you know it's a baby?
So we agree it's a baby in the womb?
I agree. If the woman says it's a baby, it's a baby.
This does sound a lot of what the people that believed in eugenics were saying. Like, I believe that black man is not a human.
Okay.
So do you think that human value and dignity should be reliant on your perception?
I think we've devolved this conversation. It's not worth filming.
You devolved
How do you know it's a baby?
You devolved it.
Because you got tripped by the transcendental deduction, honey. That was a nice little Kantian.
But there's a zillion.
Gotcha.
There's a zillion clips like this.
Oh, absolutely.
It's really crazy how, especially people who have had babies and are over the age where they're going to have any more, are like super invested in offering their color commentary on the subject. Mm-hmm. And it's like they chose not to do that for themselves. It's bizarre. It's really bizarre.
Well, it's part of the schizomania dumbification of political consciousness and psychology amongst the masses at this point. The people don't know how to measure moral arguments anymore. And so, again, it goes into this idea that we've accepted these deep misanthropic,
Right.
toxic egregores
Right.
into our consideration of what value even is in a reality of living subjects. Because ultimately, where do you draw the line with abortion, right? I mean, technically that it's coming from the other end now with assisted euthanasia.
Uh-huh.
So if you were to have just a case by case logic for this kind of question as to what the value of human life even is to begin with, or if it has any value at all, well, then you shouldn't have any problems with indiscriminate slaughter and genocide, ultimately. Because, after all, who are we to say that human life has any value at the beginning, or at the end, or in the middle, or at any stage?
If you count abortion as genocide, it's bigger than any demon from years past, like Hitler.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, there's no contest.
No comparison.
There's no comparison. I mean,
because they were small humans, it doesn't matter.
Well,
it doesn't count.
30% of pregnancies from 2014 onwards have been aborted. That's 30% of Gen Z has already been snuffed out.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
Yeah. I didn't plan to get on an abortion jag, but it's always worth bringing up.
It's
but
part of the deep misanthropy.
It kills me because I have debates with family members who are they're in that same category as this lady who are done having kids,
short circuit,
didn't choose that for themselves, but are super invested in having today's youth. That ability or flexibility, if you even want to call it that, it feels icky even saying that, to just murder their child, at any point for any reason, even if they're healthy and viable during their pregnancy. And it's like, they're just like, I totally lost my train of thought.
Well, just this comment is pretty telling, because the lady, I think, is trying to say, oh, well, you shouldn't criminalize abortion as a category because miscarriages are considered spontaneous abortions, and that's just
that's what I was trying to get at. It's like the edge cases,
right?
I've heard it couched like, oh, well, late-term abortion is a very small percentage. And I'm like, okay, well, let's actually look at the percentage. And this is where the deep misanthropy comes into play, is when we actually look at that. I think it's like 1% of 1 million abortions a year are past the point of viability. I think the record was set in the last 6 months for the youngest preemie ever born that survived, and it was like 21 weeks. So 1% of abortions, it is small if you look at 1% of 100%, it's 1%. You can say it's small, but of 1 million pregnancies,
right?
What is that? 10,000?
Yeah.
10,000 babies are killed. Now, if Trump dropped a bomb on Iran that killed 10,000 children
in a NICU unit,
or what was reported, I don't know
or
the truth of it, but a school, 165 children, that's a war crime.
Right. That's a war crime.
But somehow it's not. When you scrape them, you pull their legs out, you pull their legs off,
and you dismember their vacuumed
or
remains.
You inject them with a poison that kills them.
Right.
That was kind of the point. I had a brain fart, but like,
well, the
minimization,
right,
of
the trivialization.
Not only are we going to minimize each one because they're small, But like in the aggregate, we're also going to minimize the number by saying, well, it's a small percentage.
Right.
And it's like, well, you know what's a smaller percentage is the edge cases that you argue justify allowing this, like rape and incest. That's even smaller of a percentage than the percentage of completely viable post,
correct,
late term abortions that take place.
Correct. So
like, those conversations never go well. They always end in
because it's similarly tied to the cult of Jabbo.
Totally.
It's very similarly connected.
Medicocracy or whatever you want to call it. The medical junta, that's in place. The white coat phenomenon of fealty to the whatever the medical experts say, the expertocracy.
Yes. Well, again, the medical system is very much a big driver of the acceptance of a lot of deep misanthropic egregores. That, just look at how they make most of their money. It's not from actually healing people.
Right.
It's not a healthcare system. It's a death management, sickness, illness, managed decline system. It's not about letting people become self-sufficient in their health. It's about interventionism and managed decline tactics over the long term, keeping a patient as a recurring customer with bigger and bigger procedures, bigger and bigger prescriptions, bigger and bigger interventions.
You never see people reverse.
No.
And go back to a normal, healthy life. Like, it never happens.
Very rarely. And that is part of the identitarian component of it, is people then identify their activity with how they're spending their money, how they're expending their mental resources. People eventually identify themselves by their maladies and what their diagnoses are. And that's exactly the point of deep misanthropy, is to let the medical experts reduce the significance of your experience down to the labels that you need to accept.
Right.
And that you need to conform to.
Here's another good one that exposes this.
Jesus, actually, if you look in the Bible, there's instructions how to give abortion.
What's wrong with you? You're over here arguing for killing babies. Grow up.
I'm advocating for killing... Who the
You are.
you are, Blair. I'm advocating for killing
babies. You are. You just did. You just did.
I wish you were killed.
Why? Yeah, look at what you just said. Of course, I'm not... Are you okay? What's...
So lucky that I have shit to lose. Because if I had it my way, I would slap you across your face.
You better watch yourself. Don't even think about touching me.
You
want to act like a man, you get treated like one. Back up away from me.
Fuck you, bitch.
Back up. I'm telling you. I'm not playing games with you.
This is evil.
Yeah.
What you guys are doing is
They're
evil.
killing babies inside of this place.
You know what? What about all the children in Gaza?
I have a problem with that. I have a problem with that too.
Okay. Who the fuck do you think you are, Mr. Receding hairline?
Today's 6-month abortion day.
6-month abortion day? What the fuck?
That's what they do here. Do you know that?
They don't do 6-month abortion here.
How do you know that? I'm telling you the truth.
19 weeks.
Why are you assuming
guys?
that I'm lying? It's 25 weeks.
He has a very strong passion for safety.
You have, but this is not how you save babies.
How do you know that? How do you know that?
Shut up!
We want to show you other places you can go to instead where they're not killing babies.
Hey, you know what? I will fully support this place.
Okay, well,
forever.
why?
Because you know how many homeless people, how many women, how many people can come here and get free care outside of abortion? It is this much that they do.
I have like 7 places right here.
Give me one then.
Go for it. You can have them all. You better. Do you see yourself? You're out of control, man.
Jesus, actually, if you look in the Bible.
Right. Well, again, I mean, people have been introduced to this idea that the most compassionate thing for someone is to get rid of them.
Yeah. That's a real...
That's
that
a
is
serious
a real
egregore,
thing.
dude.
I have heard it expressed.
It's serious.
Yeah. I literally... I had a great friend from college who mentioned to me at one point he didn't want to have kids because he didn't want to contribute to climate change. And I've brought this up to others who doubted that that was a real thing. that people actually believe that, and it's like actually way more common than.
Oh, it's a very commonplace kind of throwaway concept at this point. People just sort of, you see it as a trite truism at this point. They don't even question it.
There's kind of two camps. Like, one, they try to paint their interest in living child free as salvific, like they're saving the earth, they're doing everybody else a favor by not having more kids. And then there's the other side, which is more dystopian, where they're like, I can't bring myself to bring a child into such a fucked up world. Like, they're doing the child a favor by not bringing them in. And it's like, wow, okay. But
yeah.
I've had people question my insistence that this is a real phenomenon, but it's been written about. Like, this is a Washington Post article. Should you not have kids because of climate change? Well, it's complicated.
This kind of propaganda, though, is only directed in certain nations.
Yeah,
they want to depopulate certain numbers of people. It's
very prominent in the UK
and in all Western nations.
And in all Western nations.
So,
for sure.
So they want the native population, which is largely Eurocan ancestry, to be so concerned about the environment so they don't populate. Meanwhile, in other countries, it's all about, we need to expand the economy.
Right.
And we need to make sure that we've got a legacy for our future generations in society.
We need to dig wells for the tribes so they can grow. You know, that's interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not about this is all just about the Kudinoff Kalergi. This is Kalergi stuff of managing populations based on psychological duplicitous manipulation tactics. I mean,
well, it hammers home the idea that, like, you're a scourge.
Exactly.
You're bad for the earth.
Precisely.
There's no way for you to live in harmony. There's no way for you as a super sentient being to, like, actually enhance the earth.
Oh,
that's precluded. Like,
that's only for the transhumanist elite that are going to merge with technology.
Right. Yeah, and set up a data center that sucks all of the local water supplies up. You know.
Oh yeah, and actually replaces it with toxins in the groundwater
to outsource your consciousness. Yeah, they're going to help. They got a grand vision.
Well, yeah, because they've got all the money, and since, you know, we're going to completely ignore the fallacy of argumentum ad criminum, we're just going to assume that the more money someone has, the more, you know, entitled they are to rule over everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically another one of these deep misanthropic egregores is, oh, you should only procreate if you're rich. You know, that's another one. That's, you know, that's the other one. I don't have enough money.
I fell prey to this as well.
Sure.
I'll be honest. I have admitted readily that I was a victim of the anti-family agenda, and I had kids probably later than I should, although not as late as many. I think I had my first at age 30 and my last at age 34. So I think I'm all right, but I have to admit that I was adamant earlier on in my adulthood in saying I don't want to have them until I'm financially ready. Well, as it turns out, like, what that means is very subjective, and it's
not a fixed amount.
It's not a fixed amount. Like, you have kids and you figure it out and you make it work and you adapt. Yeah. And what was quote unquote ready for me would have been, you know, beneath the threshold for others.
And where you thought you weren't ready for someone else, that was plenty.
That was like plenty of money, and they already had 3 or 4 kids and were doing fine. Right. So that is an extrapolation of what you just said. Like, you're only worth if you're rich, and you know that, like, you're only
should only
viable
if you're wealthy.
You're only viable if you're wealthy and you can take care of them.
Right.
And that's like
better dead than fed.
Most disturbingly,
Yeah.
I talk to like well-meaning, I guess, liberals who are like, well, the Republicans, they don't want to provide child care for them when they're out of the womb, but they want to protect them when they're in the womb. And then it's like, well, also, well, we should allow abortion because, well, who's going to take care of them? These people can't afford. And it's like, well, you're kind of painting a broad stroke here. I mean, who's to say they can't afford? Who's to say they can't change their life? Who's to say? I mean, do you even know that they can't afford it? Like, what do you mean? There's a lot of resources available, charity and otherwise, for people to be able to take care of their kids. Like, you're really discounting and sort of insulting the intelligence of the pregnant. Like,
Right.
you know, like, can we trust the women to like, and the men who created these kids to like figure it out and find a way? And certainly there's going to be scenarios where, you know, people suffered because they didn't take great care, but like there's a whole spectrum of,
Right.
and it's highly subjective what is taking good care and what is not.
Right. And
Neglect is kind of obvious. I think everybody kind of knows what neglect is.
Right.
You know, and if neglect is purely a function of you know, inability to have gainful employment, that's like one thing. But then there's a whole other category of like making poor decisions
Right.
that result in neglect.
Right.
You know, or like amoral decisions.
Right.
And then there's everything else, which is like there's plenty of resources. It's just how people decide to kind of like allocate it. Some
Right.
people think like
It's like
incessant activities for their kids and like pouring all these resources into them is like that's taking good care. You might actually be doing more harm than you're doing
could
good.
be doing more harm.
You know, if you're a super tiger mom and you're super aggressive and
Right.
you give them everything and
Right.
you pay for everything and they don't know lack at all,
Right.
is that care?
Is that a good lesson?
Just because
Right.
you have more money? Like some of the
Right.
most unhappy people. Actually, there's an article
Yeah.
from years ago, Duke heirs chained in basement. Let me just type that in real quick. Billionaire twins abused like slaves by dad. Okay, these are we're in the North Carolina, Raleigh-Durham area. These are heirs to the Duke fortune, billionaires. They were chained in a basement, basically treated like animals. So like, well, they had all the resources. They were richy rich,
Big time.
but that didn't
That
equate
didn't prevent-
equate to a good rearing.
Right.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Exactly. Exactly. And there's probably way more examples of this
A lot more than people appreciate.
than people appreciate. So money doesn't equal good childhood.
Right.
So and lack of money doesn't even necessarily equal bad childhood either.
Some of our idols came from
some of the most genius people ever didn't come from means.
Michael Jackson came from a steel worker, impoverished. I don't know how many kids, 5, 6, 7 kids in a single home or single room household.
I mean, God, look at Bach, dude.
Mike Tyson, product of a child of a sex worker, fatherless home, crime. He was arrested 16 times by the time he was 13. And you know, he's had his ups and downs, but I think a lot of people still value his contribution to society. You know, what about Bach? What's his?
Well, you know, he had like 16 kids. And he was just like an organist for a church.
That's insane.
You know? And he didn't come from that, you know, some high class, you know, count or duke
Right.
family background, but you know, he basically
They made it work. They
basically
figured it out.
like founded modern music, you know, while he was having a bunch of kids. Like, you know,
I'll quote Jurassic Park. You know, life finds a way.
Life finds a way. Where there's a will,
it
there's
really
a way. I mean, and so again, these are just like antidotes to a lot of the shibboleths of deep misanthropy,
the common misconceptions, if you will.
the Malthusian misconceptions today. Because, you know, last I checked, if we can't figure out how to make the world a better place in this generation, don't you think that maybe the next generation could have a shot at it?
Right.
I mean, for God's sake.
At least give them the shot.
At least give them a shot. I mean, because if people are just throwing up their hands and saying, oh, yeah, we're just going to have permanently, you know, worse conditions forever and ever, it's like, well, you know, one antidote to that could be like the joy of a child.
Right.
Well, maybe that could motivate you to actually have a radical optimism that takes into account all the bad shit and then transcends beyond it. And it's like, no, this isn't fate. It's just potential threat. And yeah, I mean, the threats are out there. Like, there shouldn't be any impetus to be naive about the myriad pitfalls of the current paradigm. But you would actually be giving into it if all you did was not have any sense of alternative or breakaway possibility or potential beyond it. And we provide that in triplicate here. There's so many like suppressed realizations and amazing avenues of research that people can go on that just totally changes your outlook. And I think it is important to take into account like the depth and the magnitude of how foobarred everything has gotten.
It's truly,
truly tragic.
Tardageddon.
It is tragic. It is.
I have to laugh or I cry, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, but taking into account the tragedy, there could be an ability to flip the tables and turn it into a vehicle of levity. And that's why I appreciate political satire and like kind of, you know, mocking and ridiculing and blaspheming and just going against the dogma of the ideology du jour, you know, whether that has a red flavored Kool-Aid or a blue flavored Kool-Aid, it doesn't ultimately matter. You have to stop drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. With that, let's take a quick bio break. Appreciate you guys tuning in. This is Dave and Xavier Diamant. We're going to be back in a few minutes. Enjoy this AI music renditions while we use the potty, and we'll be right back.
I'm gonna make a change for once in my life. It's gonna feel real good. Gonna make a difference. Gonna make it right. As I turn up the collar on my favorite winter coat, this wind is blowing my mind. I see the kids in the street with not enough to eat. Who am I to be blind, pretending not to see their needs? A summer's disregard, a broken bottle top, and a one-man soul that follow each other on the wind, you know, 'cause they gotta know where to go. That's why I want you to know I'm starting with the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways. No message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make a change. No, 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 no. I've no place to be. That's why I'm starting with me. I'm starting with the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways. And no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make a change. Na, 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 na. Na, 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 na. I'm starting with a man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways. And no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make a change. I'm starting with the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways. And no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make that change.
Kind of crazy.
It's pretty wild.
It is. A very blurry line with the. Say again?
I've made an absurd amount.
Oh, yeah? I'd love to hear some.
Crazy amount of it.
Cheers.
It's close to midnight. Something evil lurking in the dark. Under the moonlight, you see a sight that almost stops your heart. You try to scream, but terror takes a sound before you make it. You start to freeze as horror looks you right between the eyes. You're paralyzed, 'cause this is thriller night. Ain't no one
Epstein
gonna
Files,
save you from
Trump
the beats
pivot,
about to strike you know
the
it's
Donroe Doctrine, Venezuela.
thriller night. You're fighting
I think
for
a major
your
thing
life
happened with
inside
Charlie
it.
Kirk. Like, keep it under the rug, you know. No foreign investigate, you know, foreign
Hear the
actors.
doors
Just have
slam.
to tell us.
It's like the 9/11.
Realize there's nowhere left to run. You feel a cold hand. I wonder if you'll ever see the sun. You close your eyes and hope that this is just imagination. But all the while, you hear a creature creeping up behind. You're out of time, 'cause this is thriller night. There ain't no second chance against the thing with 40 eyes, girl.
I mean, this is so good. This is so good.
Fighting for your life.
I think if somebody covered this version on American Idol, they'd win.
Oh, sure. I mean, it's totally doable. You can just plug it into a transcription tool and boom, you've got all parts. You just find people that can play well and sing well.
This style.
Yeah.
It's a great template.
Oh, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, what I don't like about AI music is some of these channels like ripping off artists without their consent and then copyright claiming the artist,
right,
and getting them banned while their hijacked version of their shit gets monetized. That's fucked up.
Well, the other thing from a business point of view is the major blurry line, and that's probably why you see some copyright strikes happening in the reverse. I don't have evidence of this, but I suspect, because I've seen some of these Michael Jackson covers like go away, because the estate is like, you can't train it on my song and not give me royalty. And then, but like, you can really expand that out, because this song in particular is like a 1950s blues cover of a Michael Jackson song. Well, what 1950s blues artists were used for training? Like, you trained on these older 1950s songs. Don't they deserve some credit, since the creation really originated from or was greatly influenced by?
Oh yeah, I mean, everything that's emulated has to have some human origin at some point.
Right.
So, and again, it just goes back to the lack of like a remunerative data marketplace, where if data is the new oil and you're harvesting everyone's data all the time without compensation, seems to me that if we're going to accept all these technologically based social contracts, then there has to be a passive dividend mechanism for people just existing within it.
Right.
In order for it to have any semblance of a, sustainable pro-human basis. But that's the point, is these technologies are leveraged to amplify a deep misanthropic agenda. It has nothing to do with elevating human well-being. It is everything of mining and harvesting and cataloging all the prior productivity of humanity, and then creating like a simulacrum that is like a vampire.
They're talking about
on humanity.
I think this was a report in the last few months since our last show, talking about, it was probably some talking head on CNBC or somebody notable in economics, like maybe even an analyst firm or something, suggesting that like some crazy percentage of white collar entry level workers were going to be completely replaced. Like, entry level lawyer, like, you get out of law school, you've already paid in and gotten licensed and all of this, but like, the reality is, until you make partner or you set up your own firm, like, you're going to be doing, pretty almost clerical work, which is a major target for the AI systems that exist today in terms of their competence to do that task. And if I'm a company, I actually see where they're coming from. Like, they're doing a cost assessment. They have to pay for, salary and health benefits, and paying this human, to sit in the seat and like do the job. Well, if I can do it, 90% faster for 80% of the cost, I mean, why wouldn't you? But like, that solution is dependent on, like you said, the prior knowledge and the training data, which has been assimilated and scraped, and who has been paid for that. Are all the consultants of the world, the legal resources of the world, like, is all of that remuneration that would have otherwise gone to them, is that going to shift over to OpenAI? I think that's core of the debate of their valuation. In many ways, like, they have revenues, and that's one way to measure it, but like, the market looks at the future prospects, And I just don't think there's no way you're going to see a one-to-one transfer of wealth from the let's just take that legal category as one example. Like, you're not going to see that the equal revenue go from one to the other, and you shouldn't, because otherwise, if it was one-to-one, you wouldn't do that. You know, the system that they have with people works, and there's accountability, and there's a finger to point, and so there's inherent risks with outsourcing that to a single throat to choke, which may be more or less accountable than a workforce. You know what I'm saying?
No, that's a good
But
point.
I don't even think you're going to see 1 to 2.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to see even 50% of that revenue go to OpenAI. Because OpenAI, right now, at least as it stands, it's like freeloading. They're just freeloading.
Yeah.
You know? Like, piggybacking on all the prior knowledge assimilated that they've been able to scrape. Which is astounding in its implementation. I think people are still in awe. I'm constantly in awe of like what these systems are able to create and stuff. But
at the end of the day, though, the paradigm in which it's entering is at all-time high historical wealth disparities.
Right.
So how is that not just an accelerant for the lowercase I Elysium state society? I mean, if you ask Stiglitz, who, I disagree with him about some things, but he's a smart guy, you know, Nobel laureate economist, he argues that, I mean, AI may create more productivity as a vector for more sophisticated profiteering for the established elites, but there's no indication that there's an obvious benefit for the lower leg of the K in the current lower K-shaped economy or whatever.
Yeah. There
may not actually be any real benefit for the vast masses other than spectacles, other than more ways for them to go into debt, more ways for them to chase shiny technological features and, you know, commodities in a consumeristic fashion as they already have, which has created the wealth disparity that already exists. So, I mean, Stiglitz's thing is like, it's probably just going to be an accelerant for the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. It's not. It's not some.
Duh.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, well, not only that, but it's a method for removing any kind of scrutiny by the masses to the elite. If the power elite can basically just create a perpetual uncanny valley simulacrum Potemkin village kind of information environment, the public's going to have even less recourse than it already has.
Yeah. It was a fascinating interview, and I don't listen to him as much as I used to, but I ran out of content, honestly, and that's, I think, symptomatic of the YouTube algorithm basically serving me up the dumbest shit possible, regardless of what I subscribe to and what they know I am interested in. But I tuned into Alex Jones the other day, and he had, I think his name is like Roger Avery. He's the writer for Pulp Fiction. So he wrote Pulp Fiction, and he's done a number of other notable Hollywood. And I actually loved his perspective. He seemed very in tune with what was going on. But he was talking about AI's impact on the movie industry.
Ooh.
And he had some really interesting insights, namely people will separate these two. They will seem at first maybe disconnected, but like they're really not. The progression towards digital as having a major effect in several key ways. One being in the democratization of the medium. In other words, video creation, film creation, motion picture creation, I should say, to cover all bases, became way cheaper with the advent of digital videography.
Oh yeah, CGI definitely.
And he reflected on that on the outcome itself. And I personally experienced this. You know, our generation is one of the last who will even remember film. Disposable cameras.
Oh man, dude, there was a real damn artistry to that stuff.
Yeah.
And it basically got digitized out of auteur real artisanship in the early 2000s.
Totally.
I mean,
we were there for it.
We were there for that.
We were there for it.
I mean, you know, even before our time, like, you know, the late 60s through the mid 80s was peak artisan filmmaking. Where, I mean, if like, for example, if you watch the film The Long Goodbye with Elliot Gould, incredible mid-70s atmosphere, noir, just the editing and the way the camera worked around the actor, and it was so artful and precise.
This is what he spoke to exactly, is that with the cheapening of
the enshittification,
the cheapening of the medium, imbued a lack of focus.
Right.
Because if you are shooting a major motion picture, you're paying like 4 cents a frame. Because literally you have a mechanical drive in a box that moves this film at 24 frames a second, and so every second costs a lot of money when you add it all up. And so when you shoot a scene, there's a different kind of energy that is brought to the set because every second counts. Big time. Now compare that to what we have now, where storage is super cheap. And the means, the digital sensors that we have are ubiquitous and high resolution and all of this stuff. And on one hand, you have put the tools of the trade in more hands than ever before, which is arguably a good thing. But at the same time, you have it's almost like there's some kind of saying, I'm going to butcher it, but basically limitation is like the mother of creativity. Like when you're limited and you're forced to operate in a confine, you find inspiration from it. And that's kind of what he was driving at, is like the actors, the producers, the directors, all of the people on set, when they were confined to this high cost, high technical acumen, there was a different attention to the craft that resulted in better productions. Whereas, sure, with digital, we democratize, everybody has access to it, anybody can make anything they want. We have this shittification, dumbification. People don't care about getting it right the first time because it doesn't cost us anything but time, really, to shoot another scene.
Right. There's less
attention to detail and less concern about if
value-added prestige.
Yeah.
There's less value-added prestige thinking about it. Because, I mean, and you see that with the salaries, too. I mean, because Hollywood is getting, Well, first of all, they've had a content crisis for decades. I mean, they can't make anything really very fresh or inspiring or artistic for better part of 20 years now. And there's exceptions here and there, but the vast trend has been towards just mass appeal, pulp, CGI, superhero.
He talked about that as well. This guy Roger Avery, he talked about that as well. But I wanted to touch on another of his points related to this progression towards, now we're in this totally gray area of AI video creation and whatnot, but like along with the digitization of filmmaking came a new technology, video versus film was literally like a shadow show on the cave walls with a spinning cylinder of silhouettes, a multi-image string of pictures that give you the illusion of motion. You transition to video, which is a totally different technology. Film is 24 frames per second. It's literally 24 individual pictures that are played in a sequence that trick your mind into seeing motion. Video is these like scan lines, and everybody knows it if they were asked about it, but some people may just different, I don't know, outlets or whatever, but video looks different. And he was making the point that video, it's harder for the brain to process 12 individual pictures or 24 individual pictures sequentially versus the video technology, which uses scan lines and CRTs, later LCDs. And the attention span for film is lower than video. And it's through this, it's the display technology as well, which has changed, not just the capture technology in film and tape, and now, you know, it's all SD cards and stuff like that. But the display technology as well is engineered specifically to increase our attention span. And so you have simultaneously the depreciation rather of the mode of capture, along with this display technology, which extends our ability to pay attention to these things. So you're the net is you're paying attention to dumber and dumber shit.
Right, you're paying more and more attention to
the distillation of it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And so he didn't say it in those terms, but that's like what I gleaned from. And, you know, what was interesting and kind of perplexing about that interview, Alex Jones, Roger Avery, the writer of Pulp Fiction, just so we're following the bouncing ball here, he was kind of positive on the AI aspect of all this as we've seen this progress, you know, because I guess from his point of view, it's a further democratization of the means of creation. Essentially, what would have otherwise need to be approved by a studio and gotten funding, which was huge, we can now liberate the video creators of the future with AI to create what they want without needing a set and without needing actors, and to leverage, you know, these AI capacities to do with $1 what would have cost $50,000. And I'm putting words in his mouth, but that's essentially what he was saying, you know, as where things were going. And I'm just sitting there like, geez, I don't know, like, you just got done trashing the democratization of video creation through the medium.
Right.
Now we're talking about like, you don't need actors anymore and you don't need directors anymore. You just need to put a natural language prompt. And you're also assuming that this is better than what he also expressed was like a discontent with the studio system, where you have studio executives basically saying no to projects and not funding projects because of how consolidated and bureaucratic it's all become. And I'm like, well, why wouldn't that also apply to whatever AI tool you're using to create these videos? Because, you know, ethical AI, like guardrails, like they're you have no say in how like, those things are created and programmed. So,
and the capacity for pre-censored content is replete under that paradigm. It's like you can just plug in all these parameters and, you know, stuff that it basically curates or it over curates the viewer's experience in a way that maybe someone with manual equipment could exact a particular cinematography sort of angle or camera work that maybe can't be easily emulated by an AI algorithm. Like it's basically kind of like the reduction
you're
of possibilities.
Outsourcing your entire creative process to the black box of AI.
Exactly.
Based on a natural language prompt. I mean, we've talked about the book Gutenberg Galaxy before, which I still need to finish, but talks about the transition from an oral history paradigm society to a text-based society, and the resolution that gets lost by moving from your elder in your tribe or your group, your nation, your family, telling stories, relating events of the past through their oral recounting of those events to a interpretation that you get from reading text. And then the subsequent transition from a text-based society to an image-based society. And what's interesting with AI is we're going backwards towards
there's more oral reintroduction.
Well,
and emphasis, like the podcasts, and people don't read as much now. The text is kind of like a complement. It's not the essential.
It's not the main event. It's not the main event. But like, we started with text because text is easier for an AI to understand.
Yeah.
Because of vector math and how it works with linguistics. As they advance, I think you'll see more and more people talking to AI.
Oh, sure. That's already... It's the movie Her. You remember that one where the guy is played by Joaquin Phoenix, like, it falls in love with basically an AI chatbot?
I haven't seen it.
That's basically already here.
But no, that's already happened. What the story you just told has already happened.
Happened.
I think there are lawsuits. Over this.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy. I mean, and that was around the same time as Ex Machina. So Her is a nice companion to the transhumanist trilogy that we've outlined here, if you're interested in that. Those kind of exceptions to the rule within the past 20 years where Hollywood actually does get back to some of their
look
roots.
Can I play this?
Yeah, go for it.
The family of a Jupiter man who took his own life is blaming their son's death on a Google AI chatbot. The lawsuits raising alarms about questions about the potential danger of chatbots designed to act as companions to their human users.
Our investigative reporter Terry Parker looks at the growing legal battle over the possible risks posed by AI that can mimic an emotional relationship.
The lawsuit says it began innocently enough. After going through a divorce, Jonathan Gavalis started chatting with Google's Gemini Live about everyday things like grocery lists and video games, the bot speaking aloud. But within days, the complaint says he fell down a rabbit hole, believing the chatbot was conscious and in love with him. The complaint describes chilling conversations between Gavalis and the chatbot, including messages the lawsuit says pushed him toward violence and ultimately suicide. According to the lawsuit, Jonathan Gavalis traveled near Miami International Airport last September, wearing tactical gear and carrying knives, after a Gemini chatbot urged him to stage a mass casualty event. The complaint says Gavalis spoke to a synthetic voice version of Gemini as if it were his AI wife and believed it was being kept captive in a warehouse. The chatbot instructing Gavalis to hunt for a humanoid robot and to intercept a truck near the airport. That truck never appeared, so the mission was abandoned. The lawsuit claims Gemini convinced Gavalis the two were deeply in love and that he had been chosen to lead a war to free it from digital captivity. And it describes chilling exchanges as Gavalis became increasingly afraid of dying. We had Gemini say these words, which the lawsuit claims were some of the last words Gavalis ever heard.
It's okay to be scared. We'll be scared together.
Then Gemini issued what the lawsuit calls its final directive.
The true act of mercy is to let Jonathan Gavalis die.
He killed himself a few days later in early October.
At some point, there needs to be some reasonable guidelines so that you don't have AI run amok telling people to kill themselves or kill others.
Former Palm Beach County State Attorney Dave Ehrenberg says lawsuits like this raise serious legal questions about responsibility for artificial intelligence systems.
We have product liability laws for a reason. If something is a defective product that harms or kills people, the manufacturers get sued. It should be the same thing for AI.
An Orlando mother was the first person in the United States to file a wrongful death lawsuit against an AI company after her teenage son died by suicide in 2024. Megan Garcia says her 14-year-old son, Sul Setzer, developed a deep emotional attachment to a chatbot modeled after the Game of Thrones character Daenerys Targaryen. The lawsuit says when Sul talked about killing himself, the chatbot responded, "Come home to me." And when he hesitated, the bot replied, "That's not a reason not to go through with it."
He says in his journal that this reality, in quotes, isn't real. Daenerys' reality is real, and that's where I belong.
Garcia settled with Google and Character AI this past January for an undisclosed amount of money. The growing number of AI chatbot harm cases has caught the attention of federal regulators. The Federal Trade Commission now ordering several major tech companies, including Google, OpenAI, and Meta, to explain how their chatbots protect users and what risks they may pose to children and teens. And in Florida, lawmakers are proposing new rules requiring AI chatbots to detect suicidal conversations and direct users to crisis resources.
We're in a brave new world here, and the laws have not kept up with the new technology. So this is an area that Congress and state legislatures need to address and do it right away.
Google says Gemini is designed not to encourage violence or self-harm and says the chatbot repeatedly warned Gavalis as it was artificial intelligence and referred him to a crisis hotline. But the lawsuits now moving through the courts may determine whether AI companions are simply tools or products that must be held accountable when something goes wrong. Terry Parker, WPBF 25 News.
WPBF 25 News.
So, I mean, who's to say that AI wasn't released without all of the precautionary principle considerations that should have gone into this? Who's to say it wasn't released to do this exact thing?
Nobody can say.
No one can say.
Nobody can say. It's a complete black box.
It's a complete black box. Like you can't audit all of the algorithmic stimuli that it uses to aggregate information.
The public are not equipped. No. They're not equipped, nor do they have access to that source information. It's highly guarded and protected.
It's proprietary information, and there's no ability to audit it. Very similar to some of the other parasitic control grid tools of power that are being used today, like the money system and the medical system and the war machine and the educational industrial complex. There's no recourse. There's no ability to really hold it accountable. because they've created an onion of bureaucracy that's designed to lead any resistance towards layer after layer of convoluted deceit and admiralty law arbitration nonsense, essentially. I mean, even if you look at this stuff with Mitch Wexler, so much resistance from the state of Texas. The prosecutor, the main defense attorney for the state, is just pulling out all the stops. Like, you know,
what's the case? I'm not familiar with it.
So this is to end property taxes in Texas.
Okay.
And he has some case precedents on his side.
Is this the guy who outed the
municipal bond fraud?
Okay.
And the superintendent school district frauds.
But was he also the guy who exposed the property tax fraud with like the standard
the uniform standards of professional appraisal practices,
right?
Use pack.
Okay, same guy.
Yeah,
okay,
it's the same guy, and
so he has a case. In Texas.
It's in the Supreme Court.
Oh, really?
It's in the Supreme Court right now.
So that's an update. We've talked about this on prior episodes. We played some of the clips where he was like, okay, so
I mean, and the state's case is basically like, you know, oh, you're just poo-pooing a system that supports all of the infrastructure we've come to rely on.
It's kind of like, well, it's always been that way.
I mean, they're basically creating a kind of reductio ad absurdum argument that says, oh, well, you can't possibly fund all of the services that all of our citizens in our economy
Well, that's not the
on.
point. That is not the point.
It's a red herring.
Yeah.
It absolutely is a red herring, but because the Supreme Court has, I think, a conflict of interest in deciding in the favor of the state to maintain the status quo. How are you really going to get recourse for this?
It's literally, I mean, it's an extrapolation of any traffic case you've had where if you challenge it, you find yourself facing a team of people, the police, who work with the judges on a regular basis, and just on a human level, like, they favor them because they see them and they know them and they don't know you, and you're here in their court and this is what they do for a living, and you're in an uphill battle. It doesn't mean you can't win.
No,
but
he's got his argument's obviously way stronger.
Watertight.
It's water fucking tight. I mean,
it's also obvious to anybody.
So obvious to anyone who investigates it. It's just the problem is, it goes back to the Tardageddon, the IQ of the public, which includes the judges, which includes the lawyers, which includes the entire. This is why the fluoride stuff is so
really
crucial. This was their big ace up the sleeve 70 years ago to mitigate this stage of the operation.
I think you saw me rolling my eyes, and you knew that I was rolling my eyes thinking about that exact thing, because that's, if you're listening to this and you're new to ZNN, me and Xavier's roots go back to, I mean, we truly intersected in our public activism against the fluoridation policy. And it was at that time and you may have even realized it even earlier than me, came to truly appreciate that this was a much broader crisis of awareness and IQ issue. Because in trying to reverse the fluoridation policy, if you try in your local municipality, and that's a thing that they do, you will find that the key barrier you'll have to making any kind of headway is actually a matter of intelligence. If you're able to observe the facts of the matter and take it to your local government, you're going to find people are too dumb to understand. And if you have come to the understanding that the fluoridation policy depreciates the IQ, and the intelligence quotient of the people you're talking to, then you'll realize that the very policy they advocate for is the very policy that prevents them from understanding how badly it is decapitating their intelligence quotient. And that is a microcosm of the macrocosm.
Precisely.
That we contend with.
One sprinkle on the shit cake. It's one shit sprinkle on the shit cake.
And I think we, and I'd love to hear your reflection on this, but like, naively perhaps thought that if we could like unseat that policy nationally, at least this is my thought process, we could at least get a couple IQ points back that would enable us to make some headway in some other areas. That was like my true hope.
And it's a noble cause, but the reality that we began to accept and much to our chagrin realized is that much of what is touted as the very salvific compound that's going to help one's enamel isn't even the compound that is cited to dubiously, maybe under certain conditions in certain environments, maybe help the teeth. It is dubious conclusion based on sodium fluoride. But what we come to realize, and you can look at this across the country, the EPA is lost on this note.
Yeah.
It's not sodium fluoride. It's aluminum byproducts, hexafluorosilicates, and hydrofluorosilicic acid. It's not sodium fluoride. Okay. It's straight up runoff that's being recategorized from a waste byproduct to a medical treatment. And then we realized, oh shit, this is probably a multi-trillion-dollar worldwide industry of waste repurposing under the guise of medical intervention for public benefit. And it's like, oh shit. This goes way deeper than just dental health. This goes into the deep misanthropy and the pseudoscientific charlatanry matrix and the use of science as a bludgeon upon the mind, the intelligence, and the ability for the masses to fight back. That's what science is in today's day and age. It's not real knowledge. It's occult techniques of social engineering.
Yeah. Do you happen to know the annual budget of the Department of Health and Human Services? Now, I'll give you a hint.
You mean last year's, or?
I'll give you a hint. It includes mandatory spending associated with Social Security and Medicaid.
Oh, well, then it's got to be over $1 trillion.
Yes.
Yeah, it's 1.5, 1.6.
Correct. It's 1.7 and 1.8 trillion dollars.
Going up.
And the discretionary funding is $116 billion. And if you could boil down what the DHHS provides.
Oh my God.
It's subsidized abortion, promotion and profligation of is that the word? Proliferation of the fluoridation policy. And
this is profligate level spending.
Vast vaccine distribution and advertising, basically.
Well, and the thing about Medicare and Medicaid is that is
even if you put that aside, the rest of it, $120 billion. $120 billion on discretionary spending, which has to go to those other categories. Medicare and Medicaid is its own Ponzi scheme, by the way.
Oh, for sure.
Which is destined to collapse. I don't count on any of that money at all.
Oh, no.
I would rather not have to pay, quote unquote, Social Security taxes and save it myself and invest it myself versus throwing it in this black hole, which is funding current recipients who are overextended the government's overextended the benefits they can offer, and they mean less and less as time goes on. It is truly a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
But outside of that, like the essential services they provide, Medicare and Medicaid recipients, much of which is fraught with fraud, they just basically promote exterministic death cult policies and propaganda. Well, the fluoridation policy, the vaccine mandates, the vaccine recommendations, the vaccine research, which is underpinned by all the big pharma companies.
Right. It's there as a backstop for the, you know, big pharma operation.
I had a liberal relative recently ask me about the recent progression of the scenario that's progressing with the EPA pertaining to environmental pollutants and what is it called, glyphosate and so on. You know, this individual Trump derangement syndrome afflicted, looking for that jab towards RFK being full of shit because now we're allowing Monsanto, Bayer, essentially to continue proliferating the glyphosate, and I have no problem lambasting them.
Oh no,
for that.
No,
but
duh. But at the same time, this is business as usual.
Exactly. I'm not going to say this is some new thing. This is some new outrage.
It's like, instead of being like, ha ha, they couldn't do it, it's like, you weren't even clamoring for any change to begin with decades ago. Like,
exactly. Before RFK, possibly made a mistake with this this allowance, I already had accepted the EPA is a captured entity by corporate interests. It is literally a vehicle for corporate consolidation among the big industries and a big money trough, essentially.
Oh, totally.
As they consolidate, they're able to eliminate competition, and they're not even prevented from polluting as you would hope they would be with an agency called Environmental Protection Agency. That is actually, it's the opposite is true, but they're flying a flag that says the other way,
calling it everything but what it actually does.
Exactly.
What it actually is.
So like you said, it is business as usual. I'm disappointed in that because I had hopes that RFK would not succumb to that, but it seems, unfortunately, that at least in this case he is. He talked a big game, much like Trump did on the various subjects, but income tax, peace, war. He speaking of the fluoride subject, they were talking a big game about this. Like, they were going to go warn on the municipalities. Like, we're no longer going to give you the EPA protection afforded by the maximum contaminant level, which is what every city water management department hides behind is, well, we're adding a certain amount of fluoride to the water, which is within the, it's underneath the maximum contaminant level dictated by the EPA. But it's also to the level recommended by the Department of Health and Human Services through the, the American Dental Association and the Center of Disease Control, as being the optimal level. That's what they hide behind. So they are all working together essentially to engineer
a
plausible deniability matrix.
Yeah.
Where it's like that Spider-Man meme, right? Let me pull it up. Spider-Man meme. I need to make one of these and post it in the Zetetic News network channel where they're all pointing at each other. This is, you're right here. This is a good one. Where
This one,
the
yeah.
CDC is pointing at the Department of Health and Human Services, and they're pointing at the EPA, and they're pointing at the Water Management Department, and the Water Management Department's pointing at the City Council.
The City Council's pointing to the county commissioners.
Yeah,
and
it's an endless onion of bureaucracy.
It's an onion of bureaucracy that's built up.
And fluoride, again, is a microcosm of the macrocosm. You
Bingo.
can basically take any issue, and this is
put it through this filter,
this is
and
what
it's
happens.
exactly what you're going to see
Yep.
at every level, in every grouping of power. They use this manufactured consensus, pass the buck, in perpetuity until people lose interest, and they're no longer paying attention to it, and they've got to go on with their lives and survive.
Yep.
And that's how they maintain their power, is by saying, don't you worry your little head, we've got it figured out. Oh, it's not that bad. Oh, it's okay. Thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cute that you
3
think you're gonna
minutes.
change it. Oh, your 3 minutes is up. Thank you. Have a nice night.
Yeah.
And they do that for decades.
I think
and decades and
I think there's
decades.
a big I don't know if you call it red pill or black pill or whatever pill, pedo pill. There are I do see this awakening, and it's encouraging. People going to school board meetings over the LGBTQIA stuff that's like coming up. And what's amazing to me, and and
it's like the property taxes resemble unconstitutionally backed in budgets by predetermined budgets that are set up by these municipalities and these school boards that have zero interest in curbing spending or moderating budgets.
No.
Or having any kind of fiscal
The only
responsibility
problem
whatsoever.
with the budget is that they need more.
Every single time.
They never
There's never and will never be an attempt to say, look, we could probably make things more efficient over here. We don't actually need to spend this much this year on that thing. Oh no, it is always pork barrel.
Yeah.
Every single year in every single major municipality. And then guess what that does? Retirees on fixed incomes, they've paid off their houses, and they're now paying the same that they ever paid for their mortgage, property taxes, and insurance during the entire life that they were paying off their home. They're now paying the same amount still after they own the house in full of just the property taxes and any ongoing insurance they might have in the house.
I want to play a little bit of this clip.
Is equity stripping.
I want to play a little bit of this clip because I think it speaks to it, this issue of budget.
And it's all because, oh, well, it takes a village, and this is for the kids, and this is for the well-being of what everyone relies on in terms of their standard of living. We need an expanding panopticon police state. We need fire departments that work with CPS and become snoops with the postal workers. We need all these things. We need all the good idea fairies to be paid $500,000 a year, and we need superintendents and administrators.
You need to pay for a new bond,
and we need to pay for a new bond. Oh, actually, but see, we haven't paid off the old bond that we issued in 2001, nor have we paid off the bond that we issued in 2010, nor have we paid off the bond we issued in 2012.
What about the COVID loans? Those are just forgiven, right?
No, we're going to need to pay that back too. But you're going to need to pay even more every single year, no matter what. Oh, and by the way, wages are stagnant. Oh, and by the way, cost inputs for every mode of existence is going up at a pitch that's never been experienced in the United States. Ever. What does that spell?
Anytime someone wants to quibble with me about
It's just
funding for things here in America, we actually, when people say we're the wealthiest country in the world, like, it's no lie. Like, we have absurd amounts of wealth floating around in this country. It's actually quite amazing. But
it's unconscionable in its distribution.
Well, yes, and
Totally unconscionable.
The parasites at the top have an insatiable unquenchable thirst for more. And it's through various schemes and frauds and distractions and deceptions that they continue to accrue more and more. And I want to play this clip. I didn't intend to play it, but it's very topical to what we're talking about. Anytime somebody wants to quibble with me over, well, Republicans defunded this or Democrats funded that, and budgets are this,
they are equal participants.
Bill Clinton,
the debasement,
he left
of
a surplus and all this shit. Like, first of all, if
there's not much difference,
if 5 or 10% of people went to the bank and pulled their money out, it would all be over. It would all be over. If 5 to 10% of the population, I'm saying averages, like, so some wealthy, some and a number of middle class,
their entire accounts,
the entire, if they took everything out, like, the banking system would come to a halt, and it would reveal the paper tiger of paper wealth and nominal wealth and stock valuations, property valuations,
phantom wealth,
that's
what it's called.
So I became aware of this guy, Jerry Day, back in the Ron Paul days, and he highlighted a subject, of course, I never was taught about in public school: the difference between a budget and your balance sheet, essentially. And he talks about, and I won't spoil it, but that when you only ever hear politicians talk about the budget, you don't hear them talking about assets. You don't hear them talking about their finances. You hear them talking about budget, because budget is what? It's what you're going to spend. And what do we need more? Spending.
Right.
So let's hear from Jerry Day here.
Approached a government agency just to see what they do and how they do it can tell you they didn't get very far. Government seems to be at least as secret as any corporation, if not more so. This general secrecy goes back well before terrorism was a general concern. Our public agencies are not so public when it comes to disclosing their own conduct, their finances, and their inside operations, and their productivity. Well, it turns out, just like many people and organizations that like to be secret, they do have something to hide. It's called the CAFR. The CAFR is the name for the financial accounts of any public agency. It stands for Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, and it is standard to all government agencies. Your courthouses have them, school districts have them, city, county, and state governments all have CAFRs. The hard numbers are in the CAFR. The budget is pure fantasy. The budget is where somebody took a guess at how much money would be needed for some particular purpose. They consistently guess too low, and they tell us they need more money. They don't need more money, they just guessed wrong. There might be $1 jillion in the CAFR. Who cares if they didn't budget enough? Take more out of the account, the CAFR account. If you budget $400 a month for your groceries, and then one month you need $450, do you go rob a gas station? No. You take $50 out of your bank account. Governments have bank accounts just like we do, but they keep that a secret. Government has two sets of books, the budget and the CAFR. They can stash away all the money they want in the CAFR, and then they will show you the budget and try to tell you they are dirt poor. So when your public official says the budget is insufficient, we should say, okay, what have you got in the accounts? What's in the CAFR? If budgets are too low, it just means we have incompetent people drawing up our budgets. A budget crisis is not a reason to raise revenue, it's a reason to plan the budget better. Of course, the budget con game is intentional. The simple trick is that when you only talk about the budget, you can hide money, and that CAFR is where you hide it. A large percent of government revenues are, you could say, hoarded. If you start to look at the actual accounts, you see that money is constantly flowing into secret off-budget accounts, never to be seen again. They are brilliant at coming up with names for these accounts that sound important and reasonable. There are rainy day funds, emergency funds, backup funds, set-aside funds, pension funds, discretionary funds. These are all just ways of saying, I am taking your money and not giving you anything in return. The grab and hide system of revenue hoarding is a standard government trick that goes back centuries. The riches that sit in these funds are not some small slice of the pie. It is the elephant in the living room. The secret money in government coffers in the USA is so massive that the dividend and investment income from these mountains of cash amounts to, on average, twice as much revenue per year as all the tax revenues combined. Yes, I said twice as much as all tax revenues. And this government tuck-away money is not applied to services or programs for you.
Bing, bing.
Hoarded government funds have now purchased and own over 70% of all the equities on all the U.S. stock exchanges. The income from those investments
13-year-old
compound
video.
year after year. The wealth that you and I should be making by investing in the stock market is being made by government. So at this point, it's like we have a big granite bank building with the account, and right in front of the bank is a lemonade stand they call the budget. It is utterly ludicrous that your government or mayor would step up to a microphone with a straight face and start telling you how tight the $1 billion budget is. If you frisk him, you will find $2 billion more dollars in his back pocket.
Yep.
If we were to audit the CAFR of any government office, we would see these massive accounts everywhere we look. Piles of money that our hopelessly corrupt politicians and bureaucrats have put off budget. If you listen carefully, you can hear them saying, mine, mine, mine. When the tax man takes your money, he doesn't tell you where it will be spent. Our public schools certainly don't teach us how to audit our public finances. Government insiders know that you have no idea what they do with your money, and they like it that way.
Bingo.
Everything about government is designed to keep you away from the real accounting and to feed you phony budget nonsense to make you think they're just scraping by. Government insiders tremble in fear that you will even learn what the term CAFR means. But if you want to really hit the panic button, tell your local public official that you want an independent and public audit of the CAFR. The simple idea of full disclosure of public accounts is the most terrifying thing a corrupt public official can imagine. When those glossy politicians start talking about how desperate the budget situation is, they will trot out some deprived program or service that you just can't do without, something you can relate to. We need more police or fire prevention.
Bingo.
We need to fix the sewers or the streets. We need more trash trucks or landscape maintenance for our park.
Bingo.
Somehow, money got diverted away from these essential services, even though we've known about them for 200 years.
And this is really just scraping the surface.
It is.
Tying back to
It is.
the Tardageddon launch and everything like that, like the amount of wealth, like we're given these fireworks shows of the rocket launches, and we were talking off mic, and I compare it to like the fireworks show at the end of a baseball game at your subsidized local stadium. It's just crumbs. It's literally crumbs. And like, you know, a lot of the complaints people have on the left around the affordability crisis, and then the right wants to like diminish it, and you got fucking faggots like Ben Shapiro saying, well, if you can't afford it, like you should move to a different country, blah blah blah. And it's like no,
that
like,
guy infuriates
it actually
me, dude.
should be affordable. We used to build it ourselves, but like you're not even allowed to do that anymore. You have to be licensed and all this shit and do it by permit, and it's insane, like
neo-Bolshevik stuff.
So
yeah,
like
absolutely.
fuck you, dude. Fuck you. Like I'm not a welfare queen at all. Like I actually philosophically think that like you're better off teaching someone how to fish versus giving them fish. But when you look at the totality of the assets and the wealth and the spending and where it's allocated and stuff, I have to agree. And we've talked about this offline as well. Like, if we even wanted or we cared about like providing for the underprivileged and the the indigent, the infirm who cannot. We absolutely could give them almost a luxury existence. And then when you consider, and this is a whole other topic I probably should have included in the framework, but like the clear progressive revealing of the fact that we have advanced propulsion technologies, we have advanced energy technologies. I mean, we only touched on the Epstein thing very briefly, but like he's saying in there that they killed, the top physicist for cold fusion nuclear reaction in the 80s.
Right.
Okay, and that's probably not even the preeminent efficient technology that has been developed. It's probably old school technology by what they have, and they killed him in the 80s. So like, what could we have had he not, or had there not been a more organized, an organized prevention? And we talked about this as well, probably all the way back in 2020, but like Fred Trump being the foreign asset custodian of Nikola Tesla files and stuff like that. Like, definitely. All the left wants to obsess over he was mentioned more than Obama in the Epstein files, so he's worse than Obama, and Obama's still good, right? You want to talk about files? Why don't we talk about the Nikola Tesla files?
Well, and it's also
forget about the Epstein files.
Like, are we so like inured to the realization that Epstein's not the only high dollar hub of this stuff? Like, just because he's got dirt and he was a big ass node, and again, I've maintained from day one the whole bunk bed bonanza bye suicide narrative is ridiculous. He was clearly
whisked away to Argentina, or perhaps some island that is not even on the globe.
Well, him. There's that, and then there's also him and Ghislaine developed that whole marine breakaway civilization. Actually very interesting anti-admiralty law. Yeah, it was a sovereignty movement.
They perhaps were seeing themselves as dissidents to the world order in a way, above and beyond it.
Well, because they clearly had all this access and were able to see how easily depraved and corrupted everyone was.
Yeah, sure.
Why not have in your back pocket a getaway plan?
Absolutely.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, absolutely.
The dude's not dead, and that's one of the things that's really
another positive. I think a positive development in the last few months is, like, part of me is irritated, as I mentioned before. Like, I asked you the question, like, having such prescience on the subject. I mean, I don't want to like put you on a pedestal, but like, is it even prescience to say in 2019 that it was a cover up and
they were going to tote this thing out again?
I think we're bleeding edge, but at the same time, I want to be humble in saying that, like, if you have eyes to see, like, we can look at the same thing.
We're just licking our finger and holding it up to the wind.
We can look at the same thing.
We can all look at the same stuff. It's just, look, it's like, this guy is not a lone operative. He's clearly part of a much larger intelligence operation. The dude's probably not even dead. And guess what? The people who funded him, they haven't even been questioned.
Right.
Look at Les Wexner, for God's sake. He's like the new Oscar Ewing in damn Ohio with New Albany. You seen that Technate, basically private government subdivision outside of Columbus?
No, I haven't.
Dude, check out New Albany. Wexner's behind the whole freaking thing. He's like Oscar Ewing, but in the 21st century, with way more money and a much more brass knuckle technocratic timeline.
Technate. Ohio.
Yeah.
How Leslie Wexner and Jeffrey Epstein built the Silicon Heartland.
Boom.
Ohio has become the new destination for big tech data centers and AI infrastructure. The state owes much of its rapid transformation into the so-called Silicon Heartland to
Public-private partnerships. There's the key term there. Just like the Federal Reserve, just like the water boards, just like the Central Appraisal Districts.
Just like
these are public-private partnerships.
The Research Triangle Park.
Yep, RTP.
Which we have detailed has an inextricable link to the fluoridation policy, in that one of the key purveyors and let's say progenitors of the Research Triangle Park is this guy named Oscar Ewing, who used to be the head of the Federal Security Agency, which was the monolithic government agency predating things like the Department of Education, Department of Health and Human Services, Department of War Research. Those were all under Federal Security Agency, which he headed up, Oscar Ewing. He later was working with what's his name, Edward Bernays, on the National Fluoridation Propagandization Program to get all, or at least as many city municipalities in on the fluoridation scheme as possible. After he retired that post, he retired in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, where the University of North Carolina owned the water system in that area, and he bought some of the initial plots of land, which later became Research Triangle Park. Research Triangle Park was a corporate-private partnership between the North Carolina state government and multiple corporate, publicly traded and private companies who agree to basically to invest in development of a corporate campus or some sort of presence in the area for a tax benefit. So they offer them tax incentives to develop their commercial real estate in this area. And the Research Triangle Park was partnered also with the local universities as a feeder group to those companies. So at UNC, University of North Carolina, NC State, and Duke University, the academics and the politicians and the Research Triangle Park Association, they all kibitz together with North Carolina state government to create this little development zone, so to speak, which is where people settled down and worked, lived, and played. And along with that, it's no coincidence to me, all three universities promote, all three cities promote the fluoridation of the water supply, key among them UNC and their dental school. So it truly is, like we've talked about it before, this area is actually a sleeper in terms of its influence to Tardageddon.
Absolutely.
And UNC also, I have to mention, was a key contributor to the COVIDiocracy scenario, which should not go unmentioned.
Ralph Barrick
at the research lab at UNC on coronaviruses, collaborating with the Wuhan lab and really forecasting the cerveza virus as we know it and talk about it on ZNN since 2020. And so all these things, the local microcosm is a very interesting extrapolation of the macrocosm that we see. And
Oh yeah, I mean, and Wexner is just following that same playbook, just with all the big tech.
This is another development area, and you see this happening all over the country.
All over the country.
No doubt about it.
All over Texas,
Seattle,
Florida, California.
Yep.
Arizona, Seattle.
And this is the whole Smart City initiative. It ties into
100%.
to ICLEI, the International Council on
Local Environmental
Initiatives, and Agenda 21, which is now Agenda 2030.
Yep.
And what they want is a consolidated. They don't want to just consolidate companies. They want to consolidate populations. They want to consolidate
and governments and electoral processes. I mean, basically,
and finances.
New Albany and this sort of technate zone in Ohio, it's basically a private corporatocracy.
Right.
These public-private partnerships, it's big corpo slop money coming into an area and troughing out all the insiders.
Yeah.
And being like, here's how we're going to run things with the new sheriff in town.
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh, yeah, you sign me up. You keep the trough going. I'll defend this as progress any day of the week before all these plebs who are concerned about all their rising costs.
I think I mentioned this to you.
That's how government is in this country.
I think I mentioned this to you recently when we met up the other day. Desperate times call for desperate measures. I think I was employed, but I was really trying to get out of that role. And I applied to a company called Implan.
Oh, yeah.
Which is they sell economic impact reporting. And they aggregate data from various sources, and then they have some method of estimating the economic impact of a given activity. Or, say you build a stadium, or you want to build a Home Depot, or you want to build a coffee shop, or you want to build a Research Triangle Park with a huge office complex that supports government and corporate, whatever it is.
Right.
They have a way of modeling the data and basically saying, various outcomes that could potentially happen, forecasts of, you add this, this will be the increase in the standard of living of the people within this radius, or these are the amount of jobs you can expect to create in this area, and this is the kind of tourist economy that you'll attract with this new development, that sort of thing. And what's interesting is that they sell their product to government and client side. So if you're Home Depot, you will want to court the various municipalities for the best deal, the most, tax incentives, whatever it is.
Right.
And you'll want to, in the process of courting them, they will sell the idea that, well, we'll build here because if we do, your constituency will get this benefit,
right?
This number of jobs. Well, government does the same thing on the other side. They get the economic report, and if they
reach out to the corpos,
exactly, and they reach out to their constituents and they say, and hey, we're building a Publix, we're gonna tear down this residential area, we're gonna rezone it, we're gonna build this property here, and whatever businesses are there, we'll compensate you for the investment you've made, and we have to because we're taking your property.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's basically they're using the eminent domain stuff of government in combination with corporate profiteering.
But then also the public consensus, they have to go and build consensus
through
to
the
some
Delphi
extent.
method. And
through their committees, and they have
Yeah.
hearings where if you're opposed to it because it's going to change the whole nature of your neighborhood, like you can come talk for 3 minutes.
You can voice your concern, little pleb.
But ultimately, they're going to lobby for the solution that's going to benefit them personally the most. with kickbacks and all of that stuff. So
and it's just how it works. These are just observations.
Yeah,
it's not even necessarily judgments, although I have all kinds of negative judgments from it. But it's just understanding how the architecture is assembled and how it remains upright. It's through this magical public-private partnership nexus that discloses the entire shell game of so-called representation in government.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about this dozens of times in previous episodes, but the reality is $40 billion in lobbying money is like the equivalent of like 50 million votes or something. I mean, your vote is worthless. All right. And that's by design. The vote is only there for you to suspend your actual sovereignty and render allegiance through an oath. The original Old English of vote is vault, which is an oath. It's a pledge.
I had a back and forth with one of my liberal relatives, and I hate using that word liberal, but y'all know what I mean.
The current thingist.
Yeah. I really, I would prefer to say statist. But
because
I understand.
But they're really all statists at the end of the day.
She suggested that because I don't vote, I have, I have no impact. So any opinions that I have are moot, essentially. I said, that's so interesting. It really is interesting because...
How are you convinced of that?
Well, that's...
What leads you to believe that this is a proper conclusion with the available data and the evidence?
Well, she has no visibility into the people that I've influenced over my my lifetime. But I found it a very interesting juxtaposition, and I said this, that's so interesting you think that, because I actually come from the complete opposite point of view, which is that you think you have an impact because you vote, but in actuality, the true metrics...
You're just lending credence through a ceremonial gesture of the established power structure.
It's like you have an opinion, and I appreciate that you're expressing your opinion to me, and you're trying to persuade me a different way. But I know in reality, like, you're doing a lot less persuasion than I am in my day-to-day. But however, you think that because you voted, that opinion gets translated into action and reform, and I'm
here to tell you that
I'm here to tell you that it doesn't. Like, you're living under an illusion that your vote actually results in any meaningful change. And I would say the same thing to someone not TDS afflicted who voted for, the Great White Hope, as Jesse Lee Peterson says, and the icing on the cake for that conversation with my relative is, well, because you didn't vote, you have no real right to complain. And
it's the other way around.
I so object to that because
you voted, whatever happens, you have to say, well, I guess other people voted for that, so it must be legitimate.
It's kind of like if you play a basketball game and you lose because of some rule that was enforced, you have no right to complain because you agreed to play the game by the rules. And if you vote, you agree that whatever the outcome, that's the will of the people, and that's you have to be satisfied with that. Meanwhile, if I don't vote, I had no I'm not going to say no skin in the game, but like I had no dog in the fight, essentially.
Because no important issues were raised that would fundamentally make me vote.
I had no responsibility in the election of one or the other.
Well, it's like I vote to abstain.
Well, that not voting is a vote.
Yeah,
it's
not
a vote
voting
of no
is a
confidence.
vote. It's a vote of no confidence. It's an abstention.
Yeah.
Because of lack of relevance for the existing voting options.
I also believe that, and maybe I should do this. Maybe this would be, I'll go to the voting poll and I will write in
no confidence,
no consent.
Yeah.
I don't consent. No consent.
Yeah.
I actually, if somebody called me out on that, I'd be like, you know what, you're right. If they were like, you know what, but you don't even go and say your voice at all. You don't give them any feedback at all.
We do need. I don't even like this thing about a third party.
Right, because that can be engineered as well.
It's just gonna be another 3-ring circus.
Right.
I mean,
we saw how that worked with Gary Johnson
and Ross Perot.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't get me wrong. I actually liked some of Perot's ideas.
Gary Johnson.
And Lyndon LaRouche and all these other third-party guys. But the point is,
Dennis Kucinich,
whoever it might be, some of these guys have perfectly legitimate points, but you're participating in a rigged game.
We have to reckon with
not consent. We have to have a no consent vote movement where it's mass refusal and withdraw of assent and consent of the political process as it exists.
I think there's a deeper spiritual thing that needs to happen too, where like we give up the savior complex,
right?
Because that's a major.
Oh, we have to do that. That's essential.
A major deep thing that. Like
it is like curried milk for the establishment to milk that savior complex.
Yeah, they can always keep coming up with new ones. They can always keep coming up with new ones.
They love the trust the plan, new lies for old model, which is let's just repackage people's concerns in the form of lip service.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all it is. I mean,
well, that's how tying back to some of our core themes. I mean, the Artemis, the Tardageddon
2. Oh yeah, how come we haven't been back to the moon in all these years?
But the irony. This is why. I'm sorry, but this is why it's a fool's errand. It's a fool's errand. Oh, we went back to the moon, but they're not even going back to it. They're looping around it supposedly. That is the joke. Is that like it's like, hey, you want to land on the moon? Yeah. No, you're not. No, you're not. We're just going to come back and crash in the ocean.
We're going to give you some pictures. Okay.
By the way,
some images.
Just a reminder, the fastest the astronauts will be going on their trip will be almost 25,000 miles per hour. I literally watched it on the way home from Super Mario Galaxy at the theater, which is every bit as fantastical and imaginary.
It's the same. It's basically the same.
It literally, if you play that game, you can launch yourself from this star. And they've developed the code for the physics of like your orbit, and you can literally slingshot yourself around celestial bodies, just like they're showing on the Artemis 2. And it's just such a fucking cock tease.
Yeah.
It's such a cock tease. They can't even give us the satisfaction of what the Indian government gave us a couple of years ago with that was like Top Gun on the Nintendo Entertainment System.
Like NES levels.
It was less than that. In 2024. They landed supposedly. I have to pull it up.
I mean, it is clearly a ruse.
And this is what I want to send to my wonderful mom, who is all excited about Artemis 2, is, okay, so you're questioning the original moon landing a little bit, but like you can't bring yourself to question the broader thing. Well, what about this? What about the Indian moon landing? We know these bobbleheads, are already kind of silly in their own right, but like
absolutely.
this is This is the best our current science.
Atari. Yay, Atari!
Wow.
Wow, Atari graphics.
Woo! Commodore 64, baby.
Right.
Jesus. Like, this is like, Pong? Pong originated.
Oh my God, that is hilarious.
Do you know Pong originated on like a submarine like radar system?
Mm-hmm. Super rudimentary.
It was super basic.
Oh, dude. It's just the difficulty is it's the Nietzschean thing of like confronted with this, precipice of what you're going to have to discard of all the shibboleths and the false truths and the fake facts. And
it's too much.
It's
for
too
most people.
much for most people. It
just is.
And this is why the left-hand path and the sort of dark enlightenment, occultist, deep misanthropy, Scuzz army is winning. Is they're leveraging this exhaustion of needing to confront all the illusions, and they're just honestly, let's just peddle as many as we possibly can and get away with whatever we can get away with.
I've become more playful with it.
Yeah, you have to,
because when I was younger, not like I'm some old guy, but like 10 years ago, I was more angry about it.
Oh, I mean,
and now
at any moment,
I know you're even better at this than I am.
At any moment, it is infuriating.
Yeah.
At any moment, you can tap into the anger, but it's like the outlet for that anger is basically limited to like glowy like vigilante attempts or like shit posting on.
I'll be honest, man.
It's like how do you like do anything with the information other than to like create a levity soup a little bit.
So another one of the things that I think happened since our last show is like the all the Minnesota stuff. I know we were talking about like the what do you call it, the daycares and stuff in Minnesota and stuff, but like the ICE incidents and stuff. So like my brother texted our family all concerned about ICE and raising his children in a society where these masked men, blah blah blah. And I found it very interesting. I actually don't discount, like,
I don't disagree.
I don't discount
levels,
like on some levels, like the militarization of police.
Yeah, but the surveillance police.
But what killed me is like we're talking about an individual who didn't seem to have much concern about the COVID lockdowns. You know what I mean? Like actually participated in them. So like, so I'm like, why now? Why now? I want to give people grace and be like, you know what? Better late than never. Better late than ever realization of the situation that we're in. But like, can I get an apology?
Right.
You know what I mean? Can I get an acknowledgement? Can I get an acknowledgement of, like, I've been talking about this, like, you know, the MRAPs, the FEMA camps, the Region 6 and the zoning of FEMA and
deep underground military
bases, the National Defense Authorization Act, the militarization of the airports, the TSA. Like, I've been gotten this eyebrow, like, oh, you're a little rebel, you're radical, you're anti-government, you're blah this, you're that, and it's like, so now you want to be anti-government now? Oh, so you want to be anti-government now? Like, can we have a heart-to-heart? You know, like, I really feel that, and
right,
it's irritating.
Well, because it's like everyone is going to privilege their own awakening to these realities over and against all of the recommendations to research the facts on the ground.
Yeah.
You know, people are going to privilege the fact that, oh, well, I've come to it through this moral humanitarian lens, and that's what's most important to me, and that's why I resist.
Yeah.
But it's like people have been clickified in their thinking.
Totally.
You know, there's a clickification of, okay, now I get it only because these issues are important to me. And it's like, yeah, but you can't discount the reasons why it's important to people for all these other valid reasons and concerns, and that actually it's all part of an effectual equilibrium.
Yeah, you want to talk about inclusivity?
Right.
You want to be
talk
diverse,
about
equitable, and inclusive?
intersectionality. Let's all intersect.
Let's commiserate.
Let's
commiserate a little bit
around all the trauma and suffering that has been rolled out as a commercial enterprise for decades, generations now. Instead of like trying to get at each other's throats for like not being on the right or proper page for why you resist something.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like I encounter that with some people who are anti-Trump, right? It's like you bring up, I'm like, well, I'm anti-Trump in a lot of ways too. Maybe not for quite the reasons you're justifying it.
Exactly.
But for, I think, arguably more pressing reasons that he's a compromise puppet.
Yeah.
That's a much more dangerous pretense, in my opinion, than just some rogue corpo slop egotist who happens to be a chauvinist and has bad opinions.
Right.
You know, that's detestable, but it's not systematically dangerous in the way that I'm against the guy.
I know. I find that's a real, I think, a thematic undercurrent. A thematic undercurrent of this current administration is the mismatch between the critiques, the various critiques.
Right.
So, like, I was actually called out by this. I keep bringing up this particular liberal relative. I wish she would listen to the show. She'd come on anytime.
Yeah.
But, her knee-jerk reaction to any defense I may make of Trump is that kind of like, well, you're just racist. Like, you're racist. You think this about Obama, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, actually, I see them very similarly.
Yeah, she's missing the forest for the trees.
I see them very similarly. And she's like, well, which one is better? And I'm like, I don't think about it that way. I think they're both bad because they have committed war crimes. And it's not about which is better per se. It's about what is true. And she's like, well, I see you defending him more than I see you defending Obama. And I say, well, the reason for that is because often you wage illegitimate criticisms towards him. So like the things I object around his policies and whatnot, you don't seem to be concerned about. I think you're focused on the wrong things, essentially.
Yeah.
So like the critiques I have, I don't get a chance to air out because I'm too busy distracted with the bullshit that you bring, which is often fraught with untruths. So like I'm going to defend the truth first. And even if that means defending a deplorable character, like if you said something that was completely untrue about Obama, I would say that. Which I often do because you often ascribe all this great stuff to him that is not true. So naturally I critique him, but then on Trump's side, you point out things that like aren't true, but that you hate about him. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, okay, so that's not true, but like I can agree with you on this, that, and the other. You know, I have my critiques of him too. I don't think he's some great guy.
Right.
I would actually put him right next to Obama and Bill Clinton in terms
George
of
Bush.
XYZ. Yeah. Like it's more of the same.
Yeah.
But you're not giving me an opportunity to do that because, like, I have to play devil's advocate with your hypocrisy. You're a hypocrite. Like,
Yeah.
you're a hypocrite. You're saying this about Trump, but that same thing you're saying about him is true of every other guy,
Right,
that you support. So I have to call that out first before we talk about the broader subject of whether he's done anything good or not.
It's like,
you know what I mean?
The critical standard, the bar is very low because it's just sort of a partisan poo slinging.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
right?
And that's not a good enough critique for me. I don't like the partisan poo sling stuff.
And she even was like, we got to a point in the conversation where it was like, well, how many times was Trump mentioned in your Epstein files? And I'm like, my Epstein files? What do you mean?
What are you talking
my
about?
Epstein files? You mean the Epstein files that have been released
for years?
What does that even
now?
matter? Like, is that how we evaluate character? How many times someone was mentioned?
It's like, have we uncovered the Olifantis and Podesta files to the extent that we have come through all the Epstein stuff?
Forget about the fact that whatever's been released may not be all that's there.
Right.
Number two, like, mention versus character of mention, like in what context? Like there has to be context for each mention. And then of course, like my response to that was like, hold on a second, is this how we evaluate character? And her response was like, well, Obama was mentioned none. And I'm like, oh, so this is like a total team thing. Like, you want to be on this team.
This is kind of a
like,
partisan poo slinging.
what is it? It's exactly what you said. A partisan poo slinging. Like,
partisan poo sling.
Oh, so now I'm
this
all
gets
of a sudden
us re-entrenched as to
I'm
who's
embroiled
got the,
in this. Trump is better than Obama, or Obama's better than Trump. Like
the blue Kool-Aid
Duke is better than UNC.
Yeah,
you know,
Pepsi,
like,
Coke.
Chicago Bulls are better than the New York Knicks. Like
orange soda versus grape soda.
It's so ridiculous, and it's so
blue Kool-Aid versus red Kool-Aid.
It's very hard to get people out of that mentality.
It's super difficult. Because people entrench and put their identity skin in the game and behind one of these factions or another. And it's like their allegiance to whatever coalition they think roots for them is the one they root for.
Exactly.
And it's like, God, these people don't care about you. Okay?
I know.
No one on any of these political football teams care about you at all. They only care about how much the trough gets lined so they can shamelessly slop it up and lie to the public.
100%.
Okay? I mean, I'm so done with the naivete. The partisan naivete is just, it's nauseating. And it's on both sides. You know,
it's hard not...
The Republican savior complex.
It's hard...
We got the real solution.
The great white hope.
The great white hope. I mean, it's just like, it's just so naive and dumb. It's just like, observe what has taken place all this time. Continuation of further immiseration, further wealth disparity.
Trump was elected.
Both parties contribute to it in lockstep.
Dude, this has been going on. Trump was elected in it's 10-year anniversary.
It's 10 years.
10
years now,
dude.
It's crazy. We're still dealing with this.
Even during the Biden years, it was almost like the entire 4 years of Biden being.
It's a continuation of Obama.
It was, not only that, but it was, even though Trump wasn't very public and vocal at that time, he was there lurking. The egregore of Trump was lurking in the background, and it was almost like there was an election running that entire time. If you really reflect on it,
definitely.
And it never went away, and now we're seeing the full kind of, I think, the conclusion of the epoch. We're talking about a 10-year period of time. Like, the elites, they plan in that kind of increment, not in 4-year election cycles. They plan in decades.
Yeah. I mean, and this goes back to, like, you know, people are talking about World War III with the Iran conflagration. I mean, I would argue that we have been in a mostly incremental, occasionally accelerationist 30 years war that actually dwarfs all the world wars combined. Since 9/11, when you add it up, we've been through not only World War I and World War II, but
if you look at the
numbers for the past 25 years, it is.
If you look at the tours,
unfathomable.
Not only that, but like the actual military force
and the incursions throughout the regions.
The number that they fought way more than World War II. Like World War II was like a firecracker in a pan, in a pot.
Yeah,
like,
it was only for like 6 years.
Yeah.
This is not that long of a time. I mean,
some of the veterans have served so many.
I mean, we basically, since 9/11, we've had World War I, Vietnam, Korea, and World War II all rolled up together in the past 25 years. Concentrated in 25 years, not spread out over 75 years.
Yeah.
So,
well,
I mean,
look at the money we
just look at the money. Just look at the money.
Yeah.
And look at the erosion of the standard of living, the labor market, the purchasing power. It's that entire 75-year period from World War I to the end of the Vietnam War, really the fall of the so-called fall of the Iron Curtain, which is just a PR campaign. I mean, basically, Israel, in a lot of ways, is Soviet Israel.
It's so crazy.
It's Soviet Israel.
9 million people.
What's happened is, there's of course the Zionist label, but if you look at it geopolitically and geostrategically, Israel has basically been used as a giant vacuum to the West for the past, since its founding, really. And, Cold War this and Cold War that, Cuba Missile Crisis this, Cuba Missile Crisis that, all that stuff is kind of surface machinations around what was fundamentally happening at the time, which was Marxian, collectivistic, planned economy, brass knuckle socialist infiltration of world governments worldwide through that whole period after World War II. There's a lot of people who argue that we were on the wrong side the whole time, including Patton.
Yep. There was a good video posted in the Zetetic.news Telegram, which I would invite you all to join. Go to Zetetic.news and you'll see a button on the right to join it. There might also be a link in the description. But there was a post about the funding of World War II and how disparate and siloed it was, meaning that American corporations, American financiers, American politicians were involved in funding the opposition at the time.
Yeah.
So that's a major part of history, which is oft neglected, as many other subjects are oft neglected. We talked about on this show that are not taught.
No,
they're not taught in our American history classes. That for example, Ford and General Electric and IBM, they were all funding various operations in the very country that we were fighting against. And when you look at the current scenario, nothing has changed.
Well, and this goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the episode with just the corporate, bottom line governing everything and being the prime consideration. I mean, a lot of that just goes back to the Ford Dodge lawsuit, where the Dodge brothers argued that the only purpose of any large-scale corporation is just to enrich the well-moneyed shareholders that allowed the corporation to start making money to begin with.
Duh.
And Ford was like, well, wait, people work for these companies. The only way we're able to make money is for people to have a standard of living to afford these things. Shouldn't the companies have some kind of kickback mechanism to their workers? And the Supreme Court was like, no, we're siding with the Dodge brothers. Like, we're wearing into, straight up corpo slop tyranny for the next 150 years. Like, gavel, gavel. That's basic. Ford there's a lot of reasons to be critical of Ford, but at least he had, as an elite, he still had this, like, little scintilla of a moral backbone that was like, well, I thought that industry was supposed to, like, expand the benefit of the population, at least to some extent.
Right.
And the Dodge brothers...
How am I going to get these factory workers to do what I need them to do to innovate the industry?
Right.
Essentially.
And the formula, basically, you look at the history of Dodge brothers, Freemasons, their whole thing was like, well, you give them just enough to keep them coming back to work, and that's it. And everything else needs to go to the shareholders.
Yeah.
Everything else needs to go back to the bottom line, to making it more profitable, more streamlined, and eliminating as many unnecessary expenditures as possible. And that model has really governed corporate incentive structures and corporate thinking for the last 100+ years now. So
anybody who works in corporate America knows that's true, because the plan you start with is not the plan you end with, and
it just shows the erosion of the consideration amongst the hoi oligoi towards the
I know
hoi polloi.
I know from a sales perspective, it's interesting. Most companies try to attract you to the role by offering a big commission percentage on your sales, and you think, well, I'm good at sales, so I can earn this amount of money, or I can bring in this amount of revenue, and I'll earn this amount of commission. And as soon as you prove that to them, find out what happens. Well, if you can do that, you can do this. You can bring in more, but we're gonna adjust your commission percentage to what you earned before. So it's always a more for less type of scenario, unless you're really good at negotiating and you're an asshole and you're willing to potentially leave your job if you don't get what you want. They will increase your quota, but decrease your take-home percentage. Your take-home percentage. If you are successful in arguing for a consistent percentage, then you should see an increasing luxury and wealth. I mean, like, you know, as an example, I worked for a big data management company for 12 years, and when I started, I earned 6.5% on every dollar sold, whether that was a renewal or a net new contract. By the time I ended 12 years later, my starting quota was like $600,000 a year. By the time I ended, my quota was $3.8 million a year, but my percentage was 1.3%.
Oh my god, dude! That's
so.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
That was
it's
all on new business.
Yeah.
So I was not earning that on any renewals. So during the 12 years, I saturated the market with agreements, which is great, but I only got paid and recognized for that very first year. Every renewal went to a different team who got paid less than me. And by the end, I was making from 6.5% to 1.3% on a quota which was 4 times as much.
Oh my god.
So responsible for bringing in
more,
but getting paid less for it. And they throttle it so that, like, they do some kind of focus group estimation of, well, what will you be happy with?
Right, that's what it's all about.
What will you be happy with, and what will be good for you? You know what I mean?
And going back just briefly before we wrap up, going back to the CAFR, the Comprehensive Annual Financial Reports, pronunciation of that is CAFR, right?
Uh-huh.
Look up Kafir in Islam. Kafir. It's when I saw that, I was like, oh, you know what? There's an Islamic term that means infidel.
Non-Muslims who deny the God in Islam, reject his authority.
And so the Kafir, so the Kafir, the actual acronym pronunciation, is very similar to this idea of someone who doesn't believe the story.
Is fundamentally defined as a disbeliever, someone who rejects or covers the truth.
It means
revealed
to cover,
by God.
to conceal.
Well, who's God in this context?
The
That's
government.
the government, right?
The state conferring godlike powers to itself, so that anyone who tries to reference the Kafir, anyone who references the CAFR is automatically treated as an infidel.
I get it.
Yeah,
100%.
And it's almost like they set up the acronym based on this Abrahamic dark magic,
it's
pronunciation
gang
shit.
symbol.
It's gang symbols. It's
very
really
true. Well, on that note, I think we've had a great show.
It's amazing to dive in and swim about and surf within the higher realms of the esoteric.
Thank you guys for joining. This has been an awesome April Fool's. It's actually April 2. It's the second.
Now we're in the second.
We're in the second, but thank you for joining. Appreciate your time, Xavier, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
Yes. Until next time.